Chapter 246. The deacons of the Holy Hall were usually old, so it was impossible for an old man like Guiyang to wear such heavy armor. Only young deacons like Lin Muyu and Jin Feng would wear such armor. In this world, the use of armor couldn't be ignored. Not only could it provide a great defense, it could also allow cultivators to avoid some arrows and sword attacks. Although Lin Muyu's battle armor could block ordinary sword attacks, it would still consume her battle chi. In a real battle, it was better not to use battle armor if possible. The deacon's armor was still silver gray, but the emblem was no longer a golden shield, but a golden leaf. The golden leaf represented life and power, an existence higher than that of an instructor and sparring partner. Holding the new armor in her hand, Lin Muyu bowed and said with a smile, "Thank you for your kindness, great deacon. I, Lin Muyu, will not let down the holy temple." "That's good. Rest early. Tomorrow morning, you will be working for the holy temple as a deacon," Lei Hong said with a smile. I know." Everyone dispersed. It was already late at night, and everyone was tired. Lin Muyu was assigned to another room. He placed the armor in place, but didn't go to bed. Instead, he took out a set of black clothes from his Cosmos bag. It was a night suit, plus a mask. He bought it at the Imperial City's trading firm last time, and now it came in handy. After changing his clothes, Zhang Xian strapped the dragon spirit sword to his back and pushed open the back door of the room. The side hall was quiet and empty. Zhang Xian leaped up and activated the falling star steps. His entire body landed lightly on the tiles and flew away silently. After a few leaps and bounds, he left the holy temple. Lin Muyu's goal was the post house. That's right, something was bound to happen in the post house tonight. For Lin Muyu, the biggest task tonight was to protect Su Qin. That's right, not only did Su Qin kill Xiang Yu's uncle, Hu Tianning, he even killed Xiang Yu's biological mother in the chaotic battle. She was Xiang Yu's only relative in this world. With Xiang Yu's unruly nature, how could he possibly tolerate such an irreconcilable hatred? During the day, Xiang Yu had kept a low profile and did not act up, but at night, Xiang Yu would definitely not let the matter rest. With his current strength, it would not be too difficult for him to silently kill Su Qin, who was only at the first firmament of the heaven realm. In fact, it might even be done in an instant. If Su Qin died, Su Muyun would definitely vent his anger on Xiang Yu. At that time, there would be a lot of trouble. Moreover, Su Qin was Qin Yin's uncle. Although he was reckless and cruel, he was still Qin Yin's uncle, so he had to ask. In the middle of the night, the sky above Lanyan City was gloomy and gloomy. Fortunately, the lights from the ground allowed Lin Muyu to see everything on the roof. After activating the spiritual pulse technique and hiding his aura, he carefully stepped on the roof of the post house with his cloth shoes. After a few minutes, he found Su Qin's residence. It was on the leftmost third floor of the post house. Outside the door, 8 soldiers of Muyu City stood guard. Su Muyun and Su Yu's rooms were a little further away. Lin Muyu sat down next to the chimney and lay there quietly. This place was not easy to find, but it was the closest to Su Qin's room. He could reinforce them at any time. This night, he waited here. In his left arm, a vigorous ancient divine power was surging. This divine power had already merged with his true dragon bloodline, and its power was infinite. Lin Muyu was even a little excited. He was afraid that Xiang Yu would not come tonight. If Xiang Yu did not come, he would lose this great opportunity to challenge Xiang Yu again. After an unknown amount of time, there was a sudden squeak. The sound of the door opening came from the 3rd floor of the post house. A person with a strange voice laughed in a sharp voice. "The women that the general needs have been brought. There are a total of 3. Do you want to check them?" 2 guards walked forward and raised the lanterns in the corridor. They looked at the faces of the 3 women and smiled. "Yo, they look pretty, but, are they safe? Our girls are all carefully selected. Don't worry. No, we have to be absolutely safe. We have to search them and confirm that they do not have any weapons on them before we can enter the general's room." Then let's search them. Okay. One of the guards walked forward and placed his palm on the waist of one of the women. He slowly slid his palm across her body to check if there were any hidden weapons. However, the woman giggled and said, "Sir, slow down, you're making my heart itch." The guard's heart was also stirred. He pinched the woman's buttocks hard and said, "Little slut, you can go now." Next. Lin Muyu, who was lying next to the chimney, couldn't help but frown as she endured the cold wind. She seemed to have gained a better understanding of Su Qin. This general is really unwilling to be lonely. He only stayed for one night in Lanyan City, yet he can't bear to live without a woman. Soon, the three women entered Su Qin's room. Not long after, the sound of moaning could be heard coming from the room. The guards were still standing there with a solemn expression, as if nothing had happened in the room. After nearly an hour, it finally stopped. The lights in Su Qin's room were blown out. He had probably gone to rest. Lin Muyu was still lying next to the chimney. She released the spirit pulse technique and searched for all the auras nearby. When the sound of snoring came from Su Qin's room, Lin Muyu frowned. She even began to wonder if she had guessed wrong. Would Xiangyu wait until Su Qin and the others left Lanyan City before making a move? This shouldn't be the case. Once Su Qin left Lanyan City, the thousands of heavy cavalry he left in the dragon-seeking forest would accompany and protect him. At that time, it would be even more difficult for Xiangyu to assassinate the general first. Just as Lin Muyu's heart was beating like a drum, a tyrannical aura suddenly appeared within the range of the spirit pulse technique. Very strong. Xiangyu is here. Lin Muyu immediately became alert. She opened her palm and grasped the hilt of the dragon spirit sword. 2 minutes later, a black shadow appeared on the roof in the distance. The newcomer was dressed in a tight outfit and carried a heavy sword in his hand. With a leap, he floated down from the opposite roof to the 3rd floor of the courier hostel. But there were 8 Muyu City cavalry guards in the corridor on the 3rd floor. However, a scene that Lin Muyu did not expect happened. The newcomer shook the blade in his hand, and with a shwa 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 sound, rays of sword light fell down. The 8 Muyu City cavalry guards fell to the corridor almost without a sound, making soft banging sounds. Not good, it's too fast. Lin Muyu turned over and jumped down from the roof. The newcomer had already pushed open the door of Su Qin's room. Without a sound, he raised his sword and slashed at Su Qin. Shwa! The biting cold sword energy swept past, leaving a trail of flames. When Lin Muyu stepped into the room, she saw Su Qin holding the long sword and retreating to a corner of the room. On the bed, 2 maids were hugging the quilt, trembling with fear. The quilt was stained with blood, and one of the maids was lying on the bed. Her head had been cut off by the assassin's sword. Die! The assassin heavily stabbed out with his sword, and with a ding sound, Su Qin's long sword was knocked away. His left fist was wrapped in flames, and it landed heavily on Su Qin's chest. Suddenly, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Even someone as strong as Su Qin couldn't block a blow from the opponent. This time, Lin Muyu was even more certain that the assassin was Xiangyu. This, fire cloud art, was his specialty. Pung! With a loud noise, Su Qin was punched through the wall and fell out of the courier hostel like a kite with a broken string. Xiangyu still wanted to rush down and deliver a blow, but he felt a cold wind behind him. It was the sound of a sword cutting through the air. Xiangyu suddenly turned around and parried with his 2 swords. He let out a shout and summoned his martial soul. The flaming stepping fire tiger form lingered around his arms. With a roar, he swept out his sword. The blade was covered with flaming lotuses. It was the first attack of the chaotic 9 strikes, chaotic fire lotus. Lin Muyu quickly moved her left hand, and the golden gourd came out of her body. The wall of the gourd blocked the chaotic fire lotus. Pung! With a loud noise, the 2 quickly separated and took a few steps back. This time, Lin Muyu and Xiangyu's hasty attack were actually evenly matched. It was not one-sided like before. When the golden gourd came out, Xiangyu didn't need to think to know who the person in front of him was. Lin Muyu also knew who he was. Neither of them pointed it out, and without a word, they launched a second attack. Chaotic force lingered around Xiangyu's body. He held his sword with both hands, and a flaming tornado condensed around him. It crushed the floor without any scruples. In the blink of an eye, the energy had already penetrated the floor. The residents on the second floor cried out in alarm and fled in panic. As for Lin Muyu, she held her sword fearlessly. Streaks of lightning surged on the dragon spirit sword. Without waiting for Xiangyu's chaotic tornado to completely condense, she leaped forward and attacked. Boom! An explosion erupted from the third floor of the courier hostel. After this attack, Xiangyu stood steadily in the air. Streaks of battle energy revolved under his feet, and he maintained his posture in the air. However, Lin Muyu was shaken to the point where she retreated a few steps with her sword. She slammed into the wall in a sorry state. Xiangyu let out a violent roar and switched from defense to offense. His longsword swept out with the energy of the chaotic tornado. Seeing that this sword was about to cut her in half, Lin Muyu naturally wasn't going to sit and wait for death. She raised her left arm, and the form of a golden true dragon circled around her. Golden scales quickly condensed, and it looked like a large dragon armor shield. Then, she let out a low roar and activated the second element profound force, which directly blasted towards Xiangyu's blade. True Dragon Arm plus 2 Luminaries Demonic Dance. Boom! The flames quickly crumbled, as did the fourth strike of Xiangyu's chaotic 9 strikes. At the same time, Lin Muyu's fist landed heavily on his chest, and a resounding thump rang out as a small piece of his battle armor was shattered, but it was only an excruciating pain. After retreating a few steps, Xiangyu didn't say anything. He held his longsword horizontally, and a series of black holes appeared between his arms. This was the prelude to the sixth attack, Chaotic Annihilation. Lin Muyu didn't dare to be negligent. She lowered her blade, and she activated her true dragon essence flames and helix break again. At the same time, she summoned the fourth element with a furious roar. A series of ghostly god constellations appeared around her, and they all surged toward her longsword. Just like that, she controlled her longsword and charged towards Xiangyu's ultimate attack. Boom! The sound of an explosion reverberated through the air, and the entire second and third floors of the post house were instantly razed to the ground. The golden gourd marshal's soul and the fiery red stepping fire tiger marshal's soul lit up the night sky, and they contended against each other for a long 10 seconds. Suddenly, the power was withdrawn and released, and an extremely powerful force rushed toward Lin Muyu's body. She couldn't help but throw up a mouthful of blood as she retreated and fell into a pile of rubble. Ugh! Xiangyu also retreated several steps, and a streak of blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. A fierce light flickered in his eyes. He knew that if he didn't kill Lin Muyu today, it would probably be very difficult for him to kill this brat whose cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds in the future. But right at this moment, torches rose in the posthouse's courtyard, and a group of soldiers with heavy bows rushed over in the distance. They shouted, "The assassin is here! Kill him!" Whoosh whoosh whoosh, sharp arrows flew everywhere, and Xiangyu let out an indignant roar before disappearing into the night. Sharp arrows also shot toward the nocturnal Lin Muyu. She didn't summon her marshal's soul again, and only used her battle armor to block the arrows. She raised her longsword and blasted open the wall behind her. Then, she activated the falling star step and disappeared from everyone's sight at a speed faster than Xiangyu. Su Qin's qi and blood were tumbling in his body. As he ran, he felt a faint uneasiness in his heart. Although Su Qin's life was saved, Xiangyu's current cultivation had probably reached the sanctuary realm. Sure enough, as Chu Chu once said, Xiangyu would become the first powerhouse in hundreds of years to step into the sanctuary realm before the age of 40. Chapter 247. Throughout the night, the news that General Su Qin of Muyu City had been assassinated and narrowly escaped death spread everywhere in Lanyan City. Everyone was talking about it, and some eyes fell on Xiangyu, the commander of the military police battalion. It was well known that he was the one with the most motive to kill, but Xiangyu had enough witnesses. More than a dozen personal guards of the military police battalion could prove that Xiangyu did not step out of the military tent for the whole night. Even a native dog they kept could prove it. In the morning, the holy temple was peaceful. After a night of treatment, Lin Muyu's internal injuries had mostly healed. At this time, she stepped out of the room in the armor of a holy temple deacon, and entered the holy temple's dining hall. Even the cook seemed to be respectful, and asked, "Deacon Lin, would you like more vegetables or more meat?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "Sorry to trouble you, as usual." "Yes." A bowl of vegetable soup and 2 steamed buns. This was Lin Muyu's breakfast, but it was basically what he ate when he was a sparring partner, so it did not matter. He took the food and glanced around, and finally sat on a rotten wooden table in the corner. This table was badly eaten by insects, and the legs of the table were shaking. Sitting opposite was a Bronze Star sparring partner, Qin Xiling, whom he had not seen for a long time. "Xiling, long time no see." Lin Muyu greeted him with a bright smile. Qin Xiling was startled, and hurriedly stood up, and said respectfully, "Deacon Lin Muyu, why are you so nervous?" Lin Muyu took a bite of the steamed bun, and looked up at him. "Sit down and eat. It will be the morning training soon. If you don't eat, how will you have the strength to participate in the training? Hurry up and eat." Qin Xiling was startled, and said carefully, "Now that you are a deacon should not be associated with an Iron Star sparring partner." "You," Lin Muyu glanced at him, then tore the bun and threw it into the vegetable soup, and said, "I am not happy to hear that, Xiling. We are all staff members of temple, we are all colleagues. In my eyes, there is no difference in status. Just eat your meal. I am still me. It is just that I have returned to temple after training outside." Qin Xiling nodded gratefully, "Let's eat." It was as if, in Qin Ziling's eyes, for a deacon of the temple to be willing to eat at the same table with him was a great honor. In his eyes, the golden leaf temple insignia on Lin Muyu's collar was so unattainable, so unattainable. After the meal, he and Qin Xiling walked side by side on the corridor towards the training hall. Just at this time, Guiyang walked over from afar and said, Are you used to living in the temple again?" Lin Muyu cupped her fists and bowed, "Good morning, Deacon Guiyang." Okay." Guiyang glanced at Qin Xiling and said, "Sparring Master Qin, I have some things to say to Deacon Lin. Go to the trial hall first." Qin Xiling cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Yes, Deacon Guiyang." After Qin Xiling left, Guiyang took a deep look at Lin Muyu and said, "There are rumors on the streets that last night, an assassin with tyrannical cultivation went to the courier house to assassinate General Su Qin. However, he failed because of the obstruction of another person with extraordinary cultivation. Someone said that they saw someone fighting in the night sky with a golden gourd. This matter has something to do with you?" Lin Muyu touched her nose and said with a smile, "Deacon Guiyang said there is, so there is. By the way, how is Su Qin's condition?" Guiyang muttered, "It is said that he is seriously injured, and his condition is unknown for the time being." Duke Muyun was furious. This morning, he left Lanyan City with his troops and returned to Muyu City. It is said that Imperial Army Commander Feng Jixing led 5,000 elite cavalry to protect him. "I see. Tell me honestly, who was the one who tried to assassinate Su Qin last night? Was it Commander Xiangyu?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "Since Deacon Guiyang has already guessed it, why ask me? I just want you to confirm it." "So what if I confirm it? As long as Xiangyu denies it, my words are one-sided, so I would rather not say anything. Grandpa Guiyang, what do you think?" Guiyang smiled and patted him on the shoulder, saying, "Ayu is indeed a clever and incisive person. Let's go. Today is your first day as a deacon, and also your first day of teaching the instructors." I still have to teach." "Yes, you are a second heavenly stage powerhouse, a heavenly king stage powerhouse. Don't you think you are already standing at the peak of the temple? If you don't teach, are you going to let those Earth stage people teach? All right then, Lin Muyu was filled with helplessness. There was nothing much for him to teach. The demonic noise fist and green rock armor were Chu Chu's secret skills, so he definitely couldn't teach them. The imperial sword technique was too profound, and these instructors might not be able to write it down. Furthermore, the imperial sword technique was something he had painstakingly learned from the sword elder, so Lin Muyu didn't want to teach them everything he knew. As for the 7 planets' Xian energy, there was no need to say anything. Furthermore, these instructors most likely wouldn't be able to learn it with their talent. Then he would teach them the basics of the sword. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh inwardly. He still remembered an ancient game called Legend of Mir, where the common skills for warriors were the basics of the sword. The first skill they had to learn was to increase their accuracy. His own basic sword technique was derived from the Imperial Wind sword technique in actual combat. He believed that it would be of great benefit to these instructors. When Lin Muyu arrived at the training hall, Qin Yan, Li Mingqi, Xianxia and the other Gold Star, Silver Star, Copper Star and Iron Star instructors were already waiting there excitedly. Guiyang held a scroll in his hand and said with a smile, "This morning, Deacon Lin Muyu will teach everyone. Come, you will greet everyone and then tell us what I've taught everyone this morning." Lin Muyu strode to the center of the training hall and cupped his fists towards everyone. He said calmly, "To be honest, since everyone is able to enter the temple and become a sparring instructor, I'm sure you all have some secret skills. Lin Muyu is apprehensive, so I can only teach everyone the basics of the sword. I hope everyone doesn't mind." Qin Yan said with a smile, "Big brother, you're the champion of the sword duel assembly. In terms of sword techniques, you're already unparalleled in the world. Why be so humble?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but blush. Qin Yan's words really made him unable to accept it. Especially after the battle between Dao Jiang and the mysterious assassin, Lin Muyu no longer had any confidence in his sword techniques. That mysterious assassin broke his Imperial Wind sword technique with one strike and defeated him within 3 moves. This kind of disparity was really too great. Cupping his hands, he didn't say anything more. The dragon spirit sword behind his back moved without any wind and was unsheathed with a clang. It spun in the air and landed in Lin Muyu's hand. A plain and ordinary sword swiftly pierced downwards. Wang! The ripples from the air being sliced apart could already be seen with the naked eye. Although this sword was plain and ordinary, it had an awe-inspiring aura, giving everyone a feeling that it was hard to parry. Although the sword technique was simple, the sword intent was not. Gold Star instructor Xianxia was slightly startled and said, "Deacon Lin's sword technique may be simple and honest, but the sword momentum is heavy and vigorous." "It's not simple at all." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Stepping on the Imperial Wind sword technique's wind character formula, she nimbly leaped forward and suddenly pierced forward. She took more than 10 steps, but the sword light constantly refracted frightening rays of light in the surroundings. It could be imagined that if she were to charge and kill in the midst of an army of thousands, at least over 10 people would die under Lin Muyu's sword in these dozen steps. Formation breaking style. Lin Muyu said indifferently, "It's only created for killing people. The method is simple, but it's very practical against ordinary soldiers." The group of instructors nodded their heads, not fully understanding. In fact, many people didn't even clearly see Lin Muyu's steps and the detailed angle of her wrist rotation. It was really too fast. In 5 seconds, she slashed out at least 20 times. Such a speed was simply impossible for ordinary people to achieve. After a set of sword technique dance, Lin Muyu suddenly raised her hand and the longsword returned to its sheath by itself. Streams of battle chi enshrouded her body, causing her sacred temple cloak to gently sway. The aura of an expert was undoubtedly revealed. "Good!" Qin Yan clapped his hands and cheered, causing many of the dumbstruck instructors to cheer as well. What followed next was the specific guidance process. Lin Muyu had become the Sacred Temple's sword technique instructor. The Qin Empire's 6 arts of the martial way were sword, cavalry, spear, knife, axe, archery. The sword was ranked first, which was enough to show how highly it was valued. As a sword technique instructor, Lin Muyu's position was naturally extraordinary. She spent the entire morning personally teaching the instructors. In the afternoon, she watched the instructors and sparring partners train while she meditated in a corner of the training hall, holding the dragon spirit sword. In his mind, the fight with the mysterious assassin that day appeared. The most important reason why he was utterly defeated was because he didn't understand the opponent's sword technique. Furthermore, the mysterious assassin's blade seemed to have a powerful suction force. It was precisely this suction force that caused him to lose so quickly. However, he couldn't understand it no matter how he thought about it. Where did this suction force come from? Buzz, with a light flip of his palm, the dragon spirit sword slowly began to spin rapidly in the air. This was the effect of the spiral force. Lin Muyu's heart suddenly lit up. That's right, the spiral force could cause the dragon spirit sword to spin, but if this spiral force no longer appeared as a spiral force, then wouldn't it be possible to use the spiral force to suck the opponent's weapon? It was easy to say, but very difficult to do. For the entire afternoon, Lin Muyu tried time and time again to use the collision of Do Qi to form a spiral force. However, it didn't seem to be very ideal. Until after dinner, when he tried to condense 3 spiral forces to break through, the tip of the blade suddenly produced an extremely powerful suction force, actually causing the air to emit a sharp whistling sound. Filled with excitement, he couldn't wait to find his training target, Qin Xiling. The dumbstruck Qin Xiling held a metal sword and looked at Lin Muyu in astonishment, saying, "Deacon Lin, how can a mere copper star sparring partner like me be your opponent?" Lin Muyu laughed lightly, "No problem, we won't risk our lives. Xiling, just use your longsword to attack." Qin Xiling shouted in a low voice. The foxtail grass martial spirit came out of his body and lingered on the sword's edge. With a xiao sound, the iron sword broke through the wind and came over. After all, his cultivation was at the 3rd layer of the human realm, so it was still remarkable. However, in Lin Muyu's eyes, this sword was way too slow, as if it was moving in slow motion. This was probably because of the disparity between their cultivation realms, right? The dragon spirit sword let out a light cry. Lin Muyu lightly flipped his wrist, and immediately, 3 invisible spiral forces appeared around the dragon spirit sword. The long sword quickly twisted, and like a dragon twisting around Qin Xiling's iron sword, the spiral forces whistled. When Lin Muyu suddenly pulled back his sword, the sword in Qin Xiling's hand instantly flew out of his hand, and with a dang sound, it pierced into the wall behind him. Qin Xiling was dumbstruck. What kind of sorcery is this? Chapter 248. It was noon, so it was time to go out and eat. I want to see who can win over our Spirit Medicine Division's #1 beauty. Lin Muyu respectfully bowed and turned to leave. Chuyao held on to Lin Muyu's arm, and a burst of bell-like laughter made Luobin feel both love and hate. Turning to look at the two's backs, Luobin's face was full of jealousy and hatred as he said, "This woman. I will definitely have her." Wang. The iron sword rolled far away on the ground. Qin Ziling stood there dumbstruck. "Deacon Lin, what kind of technique is that?" "It's like a demonic art, and I will work hard." "Huh, of course not. Sister Chuyao, let me treat you to lunch. Let's go out and eat something good." "Me too." "Humph." Chuyao turned around and gently held on to Lin Muyu's hand. She said with a smile, "You, come with me. Sister has something to show you." "I am indebted to my superior's love." He followed Chuyao out of the refining room and followed the green corridor of the Spirit Medicine Division to the greenhouse. There was no one around, so Chuyao smiled and said, "All right, watch carefully." Lin Muyu's left arm suddenly emitted a golden light, and a golden true dragon circled around her arm. Lin Muyu raised her arm and smashed it down. Pung! The pear blossom sword was forcefully pierced into the ground, and the sword didn't even reach the hilt. The energy from Hao Rant's spiral break also dissipated. Lin Muyu was completely dumbfounded. He knew better than anyone how difficult it was to practice the spiraling break that used the Imperial Fire Sword as the foundation. But in such a short time, Qiao had actually managed to practice it. Although its might was far from the Dragon Flame's spiraling break, it was still extremely terrifying. Not only had her alchemy skills improved by leaps and bounds, even her martial arts cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. With Chu Yao's strength, she should be able to enter the temple and become a gold star sparring master, right? Lin Muyu saw this and pulled out the dragon spirit sword, thrusting forward. 3 spiraling energies trembled around the blade, quickly locking onto the pear blossom sword. But the power of the spiral break was too strong, and with Lin Muyu's sudden pull, the sword still carried 30% of its power as it flew towards his chest. You! Luobin was so angry that his face turned purple. He couldn't stand being humiliated like this in front of a group of subordinates, but he had to endure it. After all, he couldn't beat them. The spiritual medicine department's long corridor was filled with flowers and plants. It was far more romantic than the dignified atmosphere in the temple. Chu Yao and Lin Muyu walked side by side, chatting happily. It was as if the entire spiritual medicine department was filled with laughter. Haha. However, the flames were getting stronger and stronger, and the pear blossom sword had reached a point where it had no choice but to attack. Okay. Although Qin Xiaoling's strength was shallow, he was well versed in martial arts. He had seen techniques that could seize an opponent's weapon, but he had never seen a technique that could seize an opponent's weapon so invisibly. It was as if an invisible hand had forcefully snatched the iron sword from his hand. Lin Muyu smiled confidently. This is the greenhouse, and it's not good for an attendant of the spiritual medicine department like you to destroy the greenhouse. Aim this attack at me. It's fine, just come at me. At the side, an alchemist said in a low voice, "Attendant, lower your voice. Wasn't it painful enough when Chu Huayin beat you last time, you?" This time, Qin Xiaoling didn't stab straight ahead. Instead, he slashed down from above. Luobin smiled. "Since you and Lin Muyu aren't lovers, why won't you accept me?" Luobin snorted coldly. "Humph, I won't go." Chu Yao stuck out her tongue and said with a red face, "It's just 3 stone walls." Luobin looked at the two of them strangely and said, "Chu Yao, as one of the spiritual medicine department's attendants, you don't know when to stop. Lin Muyu is regarded as the emperor's godson and has close relations with Her Highness Qin Yin. Furthermore, he has a good relationship with Princess Shi. Everyone in Lanyan City is saying that the person Lin Muyu will marry in the future will definitely be Princess Shi, but you are still with him. Are you willing to be the third person?" As for the name of this technique, Lin Muyu had already thought of it. She would call it the sword absorption technique. It was very fitting. In the medicine refining room, a group of level 1, 2, and 3 alchemists were refining medicine essence. All of them were sweating profusely. "Didn't I come back alive?" Lin Muyu smiled brightly. "Congratulations, Sister Chu Yao. You've been promoted to an attendant of the spiritual medicine department." "Yes, yes." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "This is a kind of suction force produced by a spiral of energy. If your cultivation rises to this level in the future, I believe you will be able to comprehend it. Alright, Xiaoling, rest early. It's getting late." Qiao pouted and said, "Didn't you also become an attendant of the temple?" When Lin Muyu came within 3 meters of her, Chu Yao, who was concentrating on refining medicine essence, finally discovered his presence. When she turned around and saw Lin Muyu's handsome figure, Chu Yao couldn't help but be stunned. Her pair of beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist. In the blink of an eye, she was about to cry. She opened her arms and rushed forward to hug Lin Muyu. Saying this, Chu Yao raised her hand and pulled out the pear blossom sword from her waist. Her beautiful eyes revealed a serious expression. She suddenly opened her hands and the pear blossom sword floated in the air. True Qi transformed into flames that enshrouded her palms. She guided the long sword and in the blink of an eye, a spiral of energy was produced, causing the pear blossom sword to rapidly spin horizontally. "No, how could that be? Lin Muyu patted her back and said with a smile, Sister Chu Yao, you are one of the spiritual medicine division's attendants. You can't do this, they will laugh at us. Of course not. Everyone in the capital knows that you are the champion of the sword dueling conference. Don't be so humble. Oh, did Brother Chu Huayin say that? That's because he is too humble. Chu Yao opened her hands and energy instantly exploded out. The pear blossom sword spun at high speed towards Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh, actually, although the spiral is very strong, as long as Sister Chu Yao uses your true qi to guide it in the opposite direction, you can still stabilize the pear blossom sword. Then, all right. Qin Xiling muttered to himself and said, I feel that Attendant Lin's blade has an extremely vast and invisible suction force. It makes it impossible for me to hold my own sword. It's really strange. Lin Muyu pulled out the pear blossom sword from the ground and handed it to Chu Yao. She said with a smile, it seems that you must have destroyed a lot of things while practicing the spiral. In the distance, Chu Yao's graceful figure was in a corner of the refinement room. She was opening her hands and her fingers were like butterflies flying as she refined the medicinal essence of a grade 7 medicinal herb. As expected, that God of Medicine canon was indeed a wondrous book. It actually allowed Chu Yao to rapidly grow into a genuine medicine saint in such a short period of time. What Chu Feng's grandfather couldn't do had now been accomplished by Chu Yao. Chu Yao slowly left his embrace. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she said, Did you know? When you went to Twilight Rain City, I dreamed of you for several consecutive nights. All of them were nightmares. I dreamt of you being torn apart by powerful enemies. I was so worried. Oh, which one of your superiors is in love with you? Early in the morning, the sun was shining brightly. Lin Muyu, dressed in her temple armor, smoothly entered the Spirit Medicine Division. Along the way, the people of the Spirit Medicine Division looked at her with reverent gazes. The status of a temple attendant was much more honorable than that of a Spirit Medicine Division's attendant. Although the Empire attached great importance to the Spirit Medicine Division, it was clearly not as important as the temple. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh heartily. She walked up and patted Qin Xiling's shoulder, asking, Xiling, how did it feel when your sword was snatched away? Clang! Chu Yao's face alternated between red and white. She glared at him and said, Luo Bin, don't speak nonsense. You and I are like siblings. It's not the kind of relationship you think. Qin Xiling leapt forward and stepped on the stone wall with two pa-pa sounds. He pulled out the sword nailed into the wall and said, Careful Attendant Lin, I'm coming again. What, you don't look happy. Do you want to try again? With a glance, the golden badge on Chu Yao's neck made Lin Muyu's eyes light up. It was also a golden leaf, but it was slightly longer. So the Temple and Spirit Medicine Division's attendant badges had the same effect. Chu Yao laughed, because I don't like you. I was just saying, why are you so serious? Walking side by side with Qin Ziling along the corridors of the Holy Temple, Lin Muyu was thinking in her heart that her technique of generating the suction force of the 3 spirals of Qi Jin was still incomparable to the suction force of that mysterious assassin. She still needed to practice it well and upgrade it to be able to achieve an unexpected result when fighting with experts of the same level as her. On the second day, there was no need for lessons. Since the attendant on duty was Guiyang, Lin Muyu had some free time. It was time to visit Chu Yao in the Spirit Medicine Division. Oh. Around the corner, she saw another group of people. 7 or 8 alchemists were surrounding one person. That person looked very familiar. It was Luo Bin, who had been injured by Lin Muyu. He was one of the attendants in the Spirit Medicine Division and was also the son of Minister Luo Xing. He was a popular figure in Lanyan City. Unfortunately, after Lin Muyu became one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, Luo Bin paled in comparison. Then let's go. Chu Yao walked forward and held Lin Muyu's arm. She said with a smile, Yu's cultivation is getting more and more profound. No wonder brother said that Yu's cultivation is already above his. Therefore, in the courtyard where Chu Yao lived, Lin Muyu once again gave her some pointers on martial arts cultivation. Chu Yao was talented to begin with. Now, with the guidance of two masters, Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying, her cultivation was naturally twice the result with half the effort. Lin Muyu's body spun, her dou qi enshrouding the edge of her sword. 3 invisible spiraling forces once again appeared on the long sword, parrying Qin Ziling's iron sword in the air. Taking advantage of the momentum, she once again forcefully snatched away the iron sword with a mighty suction force. Good. As the general of the south, Lin Muyu had been in the court for a long time. She naturally knew that petty people should not be offended. It was best not to provoke Minister Luo Xing. She cupped her hands and smiled. Attendant Luo Bin, I'm going out to eat with my sister. Do you want to go with us? Ha 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 ha. In addition, Lin Muyu could clearly feel that Chu Yao's cultivation strength had greatly increased. She was at least at the 3rd level of the earth realm now, and her qi was very pure. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to refine level 7 herbs so easily. It was as if she was dancing among the herbs. Even the great medicine masters in the distance kept looking over and secretly watching the beautiful medicine saint concoct medicine. I thought you disappeared. Chu Yao raised her head and smiled sweetly. How is it? How's sister's practice of using fire to control the sword? The flame's spiraling force formed a small storm, sweeping up the surrounding flowers and plants. Many flowers were quickly torn to shreds, and the leaves flew around the pear blossom sword. Chu Yao's beautiful face paled. She hurriedly said, hurry and dodge. Don't let this attack hurt you. Chapter 249. Lin Muyu was a practical person. Since they were out for a meal, they had to eat meat. So, she invited Chu Yao to eat a table full of meat. They were rich now anyway, so mutton, beef, pork knuckles, and more were all laid out on the table. Chu Yao was a diligent and thrifty girl, so she couldn't bear to waste these things. So, she urged Lin Muyu to eat. The two of them forcefully finished the table's worth of meat and barely made it out of the shop with the help of the wall. They looked like they were about to die. When they returned to the spirit medicine division, the two of them sat in the hallway outside the greenhouse for a while. The Dragon Seeker forest was a harsh winter, but Swallow Orchid City felt like it was already spring. The breeze blew through Chu Yao's hair. She combed her bangs and leaned lightly against a wooden pillar. She looked deeply at Lin Muyu and asked with a smile, did something happen on the way to Twilight Rain City with Her Highness Qin Yin? Lin Muyu was startled. No, nothing happened other than being chased. Chu Yao pursed her red lips and said, Big brother just asked me a few days ago. Asked me if I liked you, asked me if I never thought of marrying at all. Lin Muyu's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions, and she was actually at a loss for words. Chu Yao smiled. Grandfather spent his entire life studying alchemy, but in the end, he was only a grandmaster alchemist. I, on the other hand, am already a saint alchemist. And then? Lin Muyu asked. Chu Yao looked deeply at him and said, You and I fled from Kathaya City to Lanyan City. We experienced so much on the way, and I thought that I was deeply in love with you. But after thinking about it for a long time, I realized that perhaps we really are like siblings. Love is too much of a luxury for me, and I should focus on refining pills. But if you truly love Her Highness Qin Yin, then you should treat her seriously. Lin Muyu lightly leaned against the railing and dejectedly said, Love is too extravagant for all of us. If elder sister only wants to focus on refining medicine, then I should only want to focus on cultivation. I'll wait until I'm strong enough and have self-respect before talking about love. Chu Yao giggled. Silly boy, you're so easy to fool. Lin Muyu was at a loss. Sister Chu Yao, what are you playing at? I'm not playing. Chu Yao pursed her lips into a smile. It's just that after saying these words, you'll never know whether or not I love you. Lin Muyu looked at her with clear eyes. In any case, I'll always protect Sister Chu Yao and not let you come to harm. I'll do my best to protect the people I care about. This is my principle in this world. Then you have to work hard. After all, there are so many people you care about. Chu Yao said with a sour smile. Lin Muyu stood up and said speechlessly, all right, I should return to the temple. I'll come see you again next time. I'll see you off. All right. Chu Yao walked him all the way to the entrance of the spirit medicine department before turning around and going back. Lin Muyu walked straight to the entrance of the temple when he suddenly heard the sound of hooves behind him. It was a beautiful girl wearing the golden emblem of the Imperial Merchant Company. She dismounted and said with a smile, Lady Lin Muyu, please wait a moment. Oh. Lin Muyu turned around and looked at the girl. She looked a little familiar, but she was not sure who she was. She asked, Miss, do we know each other? Lady Lin Muyu doesn't remember me anymore. The girl smiled and tilted her head to look at Lin Muyu. Have you forgotten me from the last auction? I'm the host of the auction. Panzyridium, do you remember me? Panzyridium, Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. She cupped her fists and said respectfully, oh, it's Panzyridium, the daughter of Pan Dingtian, the leader of the Imperial Merchant Company. My apologies for not recognizing you. You're too polite. Panzyridium walked forward and took out a golden invitation card. She smiled and said, I'm here for this. Tomorrow morning, the Imperial Merchant Company's auction house will be selling a batch of baby beasts and some pet eggs. Most of these baby beasts are hunted from the jungles of Lingnan. If they're tamed, they can become good pets. If Lady Lin Muyu is interested, please come. We'll invite all the diamond card customers. Lin Muyu took the invitation card and nodded with a smile. All right, I'll go. Thank you for making this trip personally, Lady Panzyridium. You're welcome. I'll head back now. The Imperial Merchant Company welcomes you tomorrow, lady. Okay. Lin Muyu put the invitation card into her Qingquan bag. She was full of ambition. She did not manage to obtain a satisfactory pet with her animal taming skill in the dragon-seeking forest. Would this Imperial Merchant Company's auction be an opportunity? However, those baby beasts' souls should be relatively weak. She probably could not tame them with her powerful soul. Thinking of this, she could not help but sigh. Forget it. She would go and take a look tomorrow. Actually, there were quite a number of people in Lanyan City who had pets. But most of them were baby beasts that were only a few decades old. They were not strong in battle and were treated like dogs. People like the pale crane who could tame a 10,000-year-old dragon snake were more ferocious. However, he still died in the hands of Chu Chu in the end. The next day, he woke up early in the morning. Today, he was on duty as a deacon. But after announcing the matches of the trial, he left the temple. Compared to him, the baby beasts were more important. By the time Lin Muyu arrived at the Chamber of Commerce in the Imperial City, there was already a sea of people there. Countless young masters dressed in luxurious clothing had gathered together. To them, the existence of the cubs was like crickets, a form of entertainment. Of course, it was very different for Lin Muyu. The cubs were his companions, they must be able to fight side by side with him. He did not need a pet. Big brother Yu. In the crowd, Jin Xiaotang had already recognized Lin Muyu. She immediately walked over and pulled his hand. She smiled and said, I've already booked a good seat for you. Come with me. Oh, Jin Xiaotang pulled him into the crowd and finally sat down in the first row. It was indeed a VIP seat. They could see everything clearly. Jin Xiaotang did not seem to have anything important to do. She sat beside Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Big brother Yu, do you want a pet? I'll take a look first. Oh, then after the auction, is it convenient for you to refine another 100 bottles of Dream of the Extreme? I knew it. Lin Muyu said in a bad mood, let's go with the old rules. You can provide the materials for free and I'll be in charge of refining them. Good, good, it's a deal. Jin Xiaotang smiled happily. Perhaps in her eyes, Lin Muyu was no different from a god of wealth. Soon, the auction began. Pan's Iridium, dressed in a purple robe, walked onto the stage and said with a smile, "Welcome to the Imperial Chamber of Commerce's auction. Next up is the auction of the cubs. First, the first cub, a 3-month-old silver-furred wolf." She carefully took a wolf cub from a servant's hands and gently stroked its head, saying, "Fast wolves are nimble and can help their master hunt after they mature. They can also guard the house. Moreover, this wolf's mother is a 3,200-year-old silver-furred wolf, so it will definitely grow up to be quite strong. Customers who want it can start bidding now. The starting price is 500 Jianghu coins." Everyone on the stage started bidding, but Lin Muyu was not interested at all. Even the snow leopard could not withstand her soul, so buying this wolf cub would only be sending it to its death. In the end, the silver-furred wolf was sold for 1,200 Jianghu coins. The young masters of the imperial city were indeed rich. After that, another dozen or so spirit beasts were auctioned off. Most of them were beast cubs that were less than 3 years old, ranging from wolves to dragon snakes. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sigh. The people of the imperial city even dared to raise the cubs of fierce beasts like dragons and snakes. They really didn't care about their lives. It was a pity that these people didn't know how to tame beasts. At most, they could raise these spirit beasts like raising dogs, but they couldn't bring out the true power of the spirit beasts. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed and the spirit beast cubs were all sold out. Pan's Iridium swayed her hips as she walked onto the stage and continued to smile. "Next, this little girl will introduce the eggs of our Ling Nan spirit beasts. Here, the first one is an earth lizard egg." She pointed at a giant egg on the stage and said, "The egg is a pinkish white, which means it's about to hatch. As long as the temperature is high enough, a fierce and cute earth lizard will hatch. Customers who want it, please start bidding. The starting price is 200 Jianghu coins." It was obvious that eggs were not as expensive as beast cubs. Lin Muyu continued to wait patiently as she used the spirit pulse technique to feel the strength of the spirit beasts inside the eggs. However, she found that each one was weaker than the last and couldn't be used at all. After selling a dozen or so spirit beast eggs, Pan's Iridium finally smiled and said, "Now it's time for our finale. Men, bring out the sacred object." A brawny man walked up with a black spirit beast egg that was about 1/2 meter in diameter in his arms. He placed the egg on the table and announced with a smile, "This is a spirit beast egg that we found in the volcanic mountain range of Linkong province in the southern ridge. It's not cooked even after being roasted at high temperature. There are dragon patterns on the shell, so our appraiser has concluded that this is a spirit beast egg of the dragon family. At the very least, it's an infant of the umbrella dragon level, and it has a high chance of hatching it. This is a once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. Customers who want it, please bid. The starting price is 10,000 Jianghu coins." The crowd immediately burst into an uproar. A man dressed in luxurious clothes immediately said with a smile, "Miss Pan's Iridium, even a burnt egg like this costs 10,000 Jianghu coins. Does the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce have nothing better to offer?" Pan's Iridium blushed but did not respond. However, Lin Muyu frowned. Under the spirit pulse technique, she could actually sense an extremely strong soul fluctuation coming from the eggshell. The strength of the soul was extremely strong. The voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from Hi, Lin Ruoji. "This is a Spinosaurus that's about to hatch. Buy it. With your psychic ability, you'll definitely be able to hatch it." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu did not care about being called Lin Ruoji anymore. She raised her hand and calmly said, 20,000 Jianghu coins. Chapter 250. Who's that? Is he stupid because he's too rich? Yeah, how dare he buy such a charred lump of metal? Is he crazy? He must be dreaming that he can hatch a divine dragon. Idiot. Amidst the booing, Lin Muyu reiterated, 20,000 Jianghu coins. I want this egg. No one else bid. Pan's Iridium blinked and said with a smile, Congratulations, Master Lin Muyu, this dragon spiritual beast egg belongs to you now. I hope you hatch your baby dragon soon, so that everyone in Lanyan City will be amazed. Thank you. Lin Muyu stood up and went backstage to complete the transaction. Although Jin Xiaotang was confused, she still followed behind Lin Muyu. She couldn't help but ask, Brother you, logically speaking, a bloodthirsty tiger or a dragon snake cub would be far more useful than this dragon egg. Dragons have been extinct on the continent for many years, and the only ones that are still alive are some pseudo-dragons such as umbrella dragons and earth dragons. It's also very difficult for them to hatch and survive. I'm afraid your 20,000 Jinin coins is already a loss. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. Don't worry, I won't make a loss. The two of them went backstage. Pan's Iridium was already waiting. After handing over 20 diamond coins to Lin Muyu, he handed the heavy dragon egg to Lin Muyu. No one knew how long this black dragon egg had been burned by the volcano. It was completely black. Jin Xiaotang could not help but worry. She smiled and said, this dragon egg. Could it be cooked? Lin Muyu also smiled. No. If it's a real dragon, it's not afraid of fire. If it's not a real dragon, I can only treat it as a midnight snack. Jin Xiaotang burst into laughter. 20,000 Jinin coins for a midnight snack. Big brother Yu is indeed different. Let's go and get the raw materials for Dream of the Zenith. Yes. Just as the two of them came outside, two people came towards them. One was Yuan Lian, who was carrying a bloodthirsty tiger cub, and the other was Ling Feng, who was carrying an umbrella dragon cub. Both of them looked at the dragon egg in Lin Muyu's arms. Oh, Lin Muyu has a good eye. She actually chose this dragon egg that has been roasted for many years out of so many spiritual beasts. Ha ha ha. How interesting. Don't let a pheasant hatch out. Yuan Lian laughed heartily as he spoke. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, even if it hatches a pheasant, it can still kill that bloodthirsty tiger of yours. Bullshit. Yuan Lian sneered, you think you can kill the bloodthirsty tiger with that egg? Lin Muyu, do you have the guts to bet with me? Oh, what bet? 1 month from now, use the thing hatched from your egg to fight my bloodthirsty tiger. The wager is 10,000 Jinin coins. What do you think? That's too little. How about 50,000 Jinin coins? Alright, I'll bet with you. Miss Xiaotang will be the witness. Yuan Lian laughed confidently. Jin Xiaotang nodded. Alright, 1 month from now, Xiaotang will wait for the two of you to have a pet fight at this place. Alright. Yuan Lian looked at Lin Muyu with a trace of jealousy. He smiled and said, Godson, you're going to lose for sure this time. Prepare 50,000 Jinin coins. Hee, if you really don't have any money, go ask your godfather for more. However, Lin Muyu laughed heartily. There was undisguised disdain in her eyes as she turned around and followed Jin Xiaotang to the medicine store. She never looked back at Yuan Lian again. Yuan Lian's face was ashen. He lowered his voice and said, bullshit godson of the emperor. He's just a dog raised by the emperor. How dare he be so arrogant? Tui. Ling Feng was dumbfounded. Brother Yuan, you've been the one scolding him all this time. Lin Muyu hasn't even replied to you, but you actually said that he's arrogant. I admire you for noticing that. You have good eyes. By the time they returned to the holy temple, it was already close to dusk. They asked the servants to send dinner to their rooms. Then, they nervously placed the black lump on the table. Their fingers tapped on it a few times, but there was no response. They couldn't help but worry that their money had been wasted. They took out a clean towel and carefully wrapped the dragon egg. Then, they placed it by the fireplace and relied on the warmth of the fireplace to keep it warm. At this moment, the 7 luminaries demon emperor in Yi suddenly laughed loudly. Idiot, do you think you can hatch the dragon egg like this? What else do you want? Lin Muyu asked in return. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said, "Dragons are spiritual creatures condensed from the essence of heaven and earth. They are said to be the closest existence to God. Every true dragon can withstand the heat of fire. How can you hatch the dragon egg with that little heat?" Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. "You're saying, the dragon in this dragon egg is a true dragon?" "Ha ha ha, idiot Lin Ruoji, can't you feel the power of the true dragon?" "That's right, you're just a mortal, unlike me who has a godhood." "Heh, it's normal that you can't feel the dragon's aura." "Don't call me Lin Ruoji." Lin Muyu roared in her heart. She moved the dragon egg closer to the fireplace. It was getting hot. "That's more like it." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said, "In another 2 or 3 days, it should hatch a young dragon. However, young dragons have a good appetite. Have you prepared food?" "Prepared what?" "Chicken, but it can't be a weak chicken. That will affect the development of the young dragon." "Ha ha ha, f*ck, Lin Muyu cursed in her heart. She gave the servant some Jin coins and asked him to buy some wild pheasants the next morning. Wild pheasants were birds that lived in the forest, so they couldn't be considered weak, right? In less than an hour, she had refined 124 bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks. That was good. She would give 100 bottles to Jin Xiaotang to auction and give the rest to Luo Yu to distribute to the soldiers with better potential in the Longdan army camp. This would greatly increase the combat power of the Longdan army camp. The stronger the combat power of the Longdan army camp, the stronger Lin Muyu's backing would be. The next day, Lin Muyu gave the Dream of the Extreme Peaks to Jin Xiaotang. The rest was sent to the contact person of the Longdan army camp in Lanyan City to deliver to Dragon Rocky Mountain. After settling these matters, Lin Muyu began to cultivate the dragon forging bone remnant scroll. While cultivating, she did not forget to communicate with the dragon egg using the spiritual pulse technique. However, the young dragon in the dragon egg did not seem to respond at all. For the whole night, Lin Muyu used the spiritual chapter of the beast taming technique to communicate with the dragon egg. However, it was to no avail. It was not until early in the morning when the wild pheasants in the room began to crow. Suddenly, the spiritual sense in Lin Muyu's mind trembled slightly. It was as if a faint warmth had awakened in the dragon egg. Buzz, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense entered the dragon egg. It was as if she had entered a chaotic space. Not far away, she saw a giant dragon covered in red scales circling in the air with its claws and fangs bared. A pair of merciless eyes stared at her. A dragon that could fly in the air? Could the dragon in this dragon egg really be the legendary true dragon? Roar! The giant dragon roared angrily and suddenly rushed down. It opened its mouth and swallowed Lin Muyu's spiritual sense. The spiritual chapter must not conflict with the spiritual sense of a spirit beast. Do not resist it. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense spread out its arms in the chaotic space and allowed the giant dragon to swallow him. He only felt his body suddenly relax as if he had entered another space. Was he swallowed? No, he was not swallowed. He had entered the giant dragon's spiritual sense. Roar! In the chaotic space, the giant dragon danced wildly in the air. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. It seemed to be in great pain as it howled miserably. Suddenly, there were signs of a volcano eruption in the air. Countless scorching lava and lava dust fell from the sky and swallowed the giant dragon in the next moment. However, that mournful howl still echoed in the air. Was this the fate of this dragon egg? Lin Muyu opened her hands and the golden gourd marshal's soul came out of her body. Battle energy swirled around and blew away the lava dust. However, the giant dragon's body kept shrinking in the lava and finally became a young dragon about the size of a puppy. Lin Muyu opened her hands and the golden gourd vine lifted it up. The little dragon whimpered and shook its little head helplessly as it walked towards Lin Muyu. It leaned its head on his arm and fell into a deep sleep. This was a state where the soul of a spiritual beast and a human were completely in sync. Lin Muyu could feel the helplessness and fear in the heart of the little dragon. The little dragon could also feel Lin Muyu's desire to protect it. In an instant, it reached the highest state of the psychic art. After an unknown period of time, a light suddenly flashed. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense was pulled out of the little dragon's spiritual sense, and the next moment, it was pulled out of the dragon egg and returned to her body. Ah, Lin Muyu let out a long sigh. This was simply too taxing on her soul force. In just a short period of time, it felt like a few centuries had passed. Her soul force was almost completely sucked dry by the little dragon. She needed a good sleep to recover her soul force. Looking at the dragon egg by the fireplace, Lin Muyu could not help but smile warmly. It was as if he could already see a little life growing rapidly in the dragon egg and would soon break out of the shell. There was a feeling of dizziness in her head. She was too tired. She closed her eyes and quickly fell asleep. After a good night's sleep, when Lin Muyu woke up, sunlight shone in through the gap of the curtains. A warm feeling spread around her body. Lin Muyu did not open her eyes, but she quickly realized that this warmth did not seem to be as simple as sunlight. There seemed to be something licking her palm. She hurriedly opened her eyes and saw a young dragon the length of an arm coiled by the side of the bed. It stuck out its red tongue and licked her palm. This young dragon looked like a pangolin. Its whole body was covered with young and tender scales. However, these scales were like crystals. They were in the shape of diamonds and glowed. Behind the young dragon was the eggshell that had been bitten off more than half. In just one day, this young dragon had actually broken out of the shell. Lin Muyu was overjoyed and quickly sat up. When the little dragon saw that its master had woken up, it happily chirped and waved its front claws. It seemed to be extremely happy. It was so cute that it was almost unbearable. Lin Muyu recognized the form of this dragon. It was one of the top mythical beasts in the game Conquer, a Catasaurus. It was a member of the Holy Dragon clan. A level 1 Acatosaurus looked like this. She did not expect that she would really get a mythical beast in the real world. This time, she really picked up a treasure. Chapter 251. Woo woo, Xiaolong curled up in Lin Muyu's arms like a puppy, licking its master's palm with its tender tongue. Even its tail, which was wrapped in red crystal scales, was wagging gently to show its inner joy. Lin Muyu had already established a soul contract with Xiaolong, and the strength of Xiaolong's soul was no less than Lin Muyu's, so they seemed to be very harmonious. Lin Muyu got up happily and took out a wild pheasant from the cage. The dragon's spirit sword flashed and beheaded the wild pheasant. She plucked its feathers and removed its dirt, preparing to make Xiaolong its first breakfast. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, she saw Xiaolong pouncing on the cage and biting a wild pheasant to death. It had already swallowed the pheasant in big mouthfuls. F***ck, Lin Muyu was a little speechless. Wasn't this way of eating too barbaric? However, after thinking about it carefully, it seemed to be very normal. The dragon clan was originally the king of beasts. At the end of the day, they were still a type of ferocious beast. This was how they ate their food. If Lin Muyu purposely made a plate of large plate chicken for the dragon clan, it would probably destroy the dragon clan's nature. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door, followed by Lei Hong's voice. Are you awake? Something big has happened. One of the imperial guards, Lord Chu Huayin, is looking for you. Lin Muyu was shocked and hurriedly gestured for Xiaolong to hide. Woo, Xiaolong protested with its mouth wide open, as if it was still not full. However, it still hid under the bed with half a chicken in its mouth and ate it heartily under the bed. Opening the door, Lin Muyu said respectfully, Great Deacon, what happened? Why is Brother Chu looking for me so early in the morning? I don't know either. Lei Hong held the Great Deacon's scepter in his hand. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he smiled. You have a guest here? No, hey, is that so? Reham narrowed his eyes. Although Grandpa's spiritual sense isn't as sharp as yours, I am still a Saint Realm cultivator. Do you know that there is an extremely strong dragon aura in your room? Seeing that she couldn't hide it anymore, Lin Muyu was speechless. Then, Grandpa, come in. When Raham entered the room, Lin Muyu immediately closed the door. With a soft call, the little dragon crawled out, licking its tongue. There were even a few chicken feathers at the corner of its mouth. It looked at Raham with its big round eyes and let out a loud howl. Unfortunately, its voice was immature, and it didn't sound like a dragon's howl. It still sounded like a puppy's. But what kind of person was Raham? He was an experienced and knowledgeable Grand Deacon of the temple. After squinting at the little dragon for a while, Lei Hong's heart was filled with shock. He turned to look at Lin Muyu and asked, Where did this dragon come from? I bought it from the Imperial Merchant Guild for 20,000 Jinin coins. It is said to be a dragon egg dug out from a volcanic area. It should be at least 10,000 years old. I was lucky and actually hatched it. Lin Muyu replied honestly. Raham was ecstatic. This is too shocking. You should know that this Acatosaurus is a member of the ancient sacred dragon clan. Its status is second only to the five-clawed golden true dragon. Everyone thought that Acatosaurus had gone extinct along with the five-clawed golden true dragon. You actually managed to get one. This is too shocking. Lin Muyu was stunned. Grand Deacon, if I bring this dragon out as a shareholder, wouldn't it attract too much attention? That won't happen. Raham stroked his white beard and smiled. The young Acatosaurus is not much different from a fire salamander. It will only display its true dragon aura when it reaches adulthood. If you really want to bring it out, you can lie and say that it is a fire salamander. I believe that no one will be able to tell the difference. However, it is better not to show it off in front of others. It is a pity. What is a pity? The Acatosaurus is a branch of the ancient sacred dragon. It needs 10,000 years to reach adulthood. It is a pity that you can't wait 10,000 years for it to reach adulthood. I am afraid that by the time your 100 years are over, this Acatosaurus will only be a young dragon. Damn. Lin Muyu sighed and said, Grand Deacon, can I still bring this Acatosaurus out? It is best that you do not. I will help you look after it. You should go and see Chu Huayin. He seems to be in a hurry. Something big must have happened. Thank you, Grand Deacon. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense told the little dragon to stay in the room and not go out. It could eat the wild pheasants as it pleased. The little dragon raised its head and roared in response. Lei Hong sat by the bed and caressed the little dragon's head with a smile. He looked like he couldn't bear to part with it. He muttered, Little guy, if you were born a few thousand years earlier, maybe I could rely on you to revive the holy temple. What a pity, what a pity. In the corridor, Lin Muyu was wearing the holy temple's armor and carrying the dragon spirit sword on her back. It seemed that Chu Huayin couldn't wait any longer. He also appeared in the corridor and rushed over. His face was full of seriousness as he said, Something big has happened. What's wrong, Brother Chu? Lin Muyu's heart trembled. She said, Did something happen to Sister Chu Yao? No, Yao is fine. Something happened to Su Qin. Wasn't General Su Qin escorted back to Muyu City by Brother Feng and the Imperial Guards? How could something happen? What the hell happened? He was assassinated. Chu Huayin's expression darkened. He said, It happened late last night. The Empire's great general Su Qin is dead. Lin Muyu was shocked. How? How is this possible? Who could kill Su Qin in the midst of thousands of soldiers? Chu Huaimian said, when Feng Jixing and his 5,000 imperial cavalrymen were halfway to the ancient path in the clouds, the 10,000 steel blade army arrived to receive Su Qin. Therefore, Duke Yun ordered Feng Jixing to lead the army back to Lanyan City. However, the next day, when General Su Qin and his 500 imperial cavalrymen entered the dragon-seeking forest to hunt, they were ambushed by a group of people from the House of Chivalry. They sent out more than 2,000 rangers, and among them, there was no lack of outstanding cultivators. When Duke Yun arrived with his troops, General Su Qin and his 500 imperial cavalrymen had already, Impossible. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, I've seen the power of the Steel Blade Army. There's no way that 2,000 rangers could kill 500 cavalry guards. This is absolutely impossible, that's the problem. Chu Huayin lowered his voice and said, His Majesty and Her Highness Qin Yin both suspect that this wasn't done by the chivalrous house. Instead, someone used the chivalrous house's name to kill Su Qin. Xiangyu? Lin Muyu's eyes widened. Chu Huayin didn't reply. He said lightly, Let's go. Follow me to the palace. His Majesty is summoning you. A servant from the temple had already brought Lin Muyu's warhorse over. He said respectfully, Deacon, here's your horse. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Thank you. She leapt onto her horse and charged towards the Zetian Palace with Chu Huayin in tow. Things had really gotten out of hand this time. Lin Muyu had initially thought that she would be able to save Su Qin's life during the battle at the post house. However, she had never expected that she would still be one step behind. Su Qin had actually been killed even under the protection of 500 cavalrymen. The atmosphere in Zetian Palace was cold and quiet. The two of them galloped to the outside of the palace before dismounting. A eunuch announced loudly, General of the South, Lin Muyu, and Deputy General Chu Huayin request an audience. Inside the palace, Qin Jin was sitting on the throne. Qin Yin, who was dressed in a princess cloak, stood beside her father. Chu Chu, Feng Jixing, and Qin Yan were also present. They were basically all Qin Jin's trusted aides in Zetian Palace. Even all the courtiers had been dismissed. This showed how secretive this audience was. Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin walked side by side to the emperor. She cupped her fists and greeted, Father. Qin Jin nodded and asked, Ayu, 3 days ago, a fierce battle took place in the Lanyan city's posthouse late at night. One person tried to assassinate Su Qin, and the other person saved Su Qin. The one who saved Su Qin was you. Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Jin said in a low voice, You, answer truthfully. Lin Muyu had no choice but to nod. It was me. Qin Jin was stunned. He continued to ask, Then who was the one who assassinated Su Qin? The commander of the military police battalion, Xiangyu. Are you sure? Yes. Lin Muyu said calmly, I've fought Xiangyu before. That night, the assassin's martial soul was the treading fire tiger, and the techniques he used were the fire cloud fist and the chaotic 9 strikes. There's no doubt that it was Xiangyu. Other than Xiangyu, there's probably no one in the younger generation of Lanyan City who can easily defeat me. Since that's the case, Qin Jin's eyes were filled with killing intent. Xiangyu is audacious. He can be so insolent just because he is the descendant of the war god Xiang Wendian. He is truly despicable. Feng Jixing, what do you think we should do? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, although you is sure that this person is Xiangyu, there is no other evidence. If Xiangyu refutes this as a one-sided statement from you, what should we do? Moreover, the assassination of General Su Qin in the dragon-seeking forest has yet to be concluded. Those people from the House of Chivalry have already disappeared without a trace in the dragon-seeking forest. If we hold Xiangyu accountable now, it will be unjustifiable. Qin Jin suddenly slammed his dragon throne and said angrily, Are we powerless to stop Xiangyu from killing my general? Feng Jixing hurriedly knelt on one knee and said, That's not what I meant. Get up. It's fine now. Qin Jin rubbed the space between his brows. He seemed to have aged a few more years and said, Su Qin is Xiao Yin's uncle and Empress Su Yun's elder brother. Su Qin's murder has shaken the world. We have no choice but to take action. Chu Chu, you are the princess's grand tutor. What do you think we should do about this? Chu Chu cupped his fists at the side and said, Investigate all of Xiangyu's movements these 3 days in detail. Also, send someone to console Duke Yun. Duke Yun has lost his son in his old age. This is a great pain in the world. Qin Jin nodded and said, Feng Jixing, we grant you special privileges and bestow upon you the monarch's golden order. You have full authority to investigate Xiangyu. Qin Yan, bring generous gifts and our imperial edict to Mu City. Consul Duke Yun and confer Su Qin the posthumous title of Jingyuan Marquis. Yunzhong province's taxes will also be pardoned for a year. Feng Jixing and Qin Yan cupped their fists at the same time and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Lin Muyu was startled. She asked, "Royal Father, what about me?" Qin Jin looked at him and said, "General Su Qin was assassinated. Originally, your little sister Xiao Yin and I should have gone to attend the funeral. However, Royal Father is already old and his health is not good. He can't stand the rush along the way. Feng Jixing and Qin Yan already have their own missions, so Xiao Yin can't go attend the funeral. It's too unsafe. You accompany Xiao Yin well these few days. Whatever she wants to do, just allow her. We are tired. All of you can withdraw." "Yes." Chapter 252. With the help of 2 palace maids, Qin Jin slowly walked down the steps while coughing violently. No one would associate this old man with the wise and mighty radiant king of the past. Su Qin's death meant that there might be a huge change in Mu City. Qin Yin might lose one of her supporters in the future. This was probably what Qin Jin was most worried about. "Xiao Yin, are you alright?" Lin Mu walked up the steps and looked at Qin Yin. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were slightly red. She bit her red lips and said, "Big brother you, how could uncle die?" "How could uncle die?" "He was the empire's great general." Lin Mu was a bit silent and said, "People will die eventually. He just offended someone he shouldn't have." "Xiangyu?" A trace of killing intent flashed in Qin Yin's eyes. "If uncle was really killed by Xiangyu, I want him to die a horrible death." "And?" Lin Mu nodded, her gaze firm. "I will." On the side, Chu Chu said, Her Highness is in a bad mood. Keep her company for the next 2 days. This old man will stay in Zetian Palace to protect His Majesty. You can go out with Xiao Yin and relax." I know, Chu, then this old man will go. I won't disturb the 2 of you." Chu Chu's words made Qin Yin blush. She looked up at Lin Muyu and bit her red lips. She thought of Su Qin's tragic death and said, "Big brother you, let's go to the imperial hunting grounds to relax." Okay. When are we going?" "We'll leave in the afternoon." "Okay, let me get ready." "Okay, then I'll wait for you in Zetian Palace at noon. Also, send someone to bring Xiaoxi over. We'll go together." Lin Muyu turned around and saw Chu Huayin cupping his fists. General Chu Huayin will obey General Lin's orders. Although Chu Huayin was the commander of the Dragon Guards, he was only a 5th-ranked deputy general. He was 1 rank lower than Lin Muyu, so he spoke very respectfully. Lin Muyu didn't say much. She said, "Big brother Chu, Her Highness Yin is going to hunt. We must ensure her safety. How many people can you mobilize on your side?" "About 2,000 royal guards." "All right, bring them all." "Yes." Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and went outside the door. She found an eagle guard and ordered, "Go to the eagle nest camp immediately and order Wei Chou to lead 50 eagle guards to Zetian Palace and await further orders. Bring enough white drill arrows." "Yes, my lady." After everything was settled, Lin Muyu thought for a moment and turned around to return to the Holy Palace. Since she was going to hunt, she would bring a Catasaurus along. The cuteness of the little dragon might make Qin Yin feel better. More importantly, a Catasaurus needed to grow. According to the 4th chapter of the Psychic 8 volumes, breeding, as long as the pet was strong enough, it should be able to speed up its growth by devouring other spiritual beasts. This was a good opportunity. He didn't want to wait until he was old and a Catasaurus was still a young dragon, useless except for acting cute. After returning to the Holy Palace, he reported the situation to Reihong. Then, He wrapped the little dragon's body in a black cloth and tied it to the horse's back. He ordered it not to move. Fortunately, although Acatosaurus was mischievous, it was very obedient. It laid in the cloth bag and soon, it started snoring softly. It had actually fallen asleep. When he returned to the holy palace, Tang Xiaoxi had already arrived. After having a quick meal, they set off for the royal hunting ground. The royal hunting ground was located in the dragon-seeking forest. Most of the spiritual beasts in the hunting ground did not exceed 3,000 years of lifespan. The hunting ground was surrounded by soldiers armed with bows and arrows. As long as the spiritual beasts in the hunting ground tried to escape, these soldiers would use torches and bows to threaten them. When there were so many people, even the strongest spiritual beasts would be frightened and retreat, let alone a spiritual beast that was only a few thousand years old. More than 2,000 people left the city in a grandiose manner. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were both sitting in the carriage. Lin Muyu held on to the hilt of her sword and rode her horse to guard one side. Chu Huayin guarded the other side. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others followed closely behind them. In particular, the group of archers that Wei Chou brought with him were all filled with arrows. The arrowheads glowed with a white luster, which was the special characteristic of the white diamond arrows. The reason why Lin Muyu dared to escort Qin Yin with such a small number of troops was mainly because of the white diamond arrows. The sharpness of the white diamond arrows, Wei Chou's unfailing accuracy, and Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin's strength were enough to kill them even if Xing Yifan personally led the Divine Might Battalion to fight them. The white diamond arrows could pierce through battle armor, and they were destined to be the nemesis of Saint Realm experts. They arrived at the Imperial hunting ground at dusk. The journey was very smooth, and they didn't make any mistakes. That night, they arranged for Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to stay in the hunting ground's temporary imperial residence. In fact, it was called a temporary imperial residence, but it was just a small castle. The 2,000 imperial guards set up camp around the temporary imperial residence. There were originally 300 soldiers guarding the temporary imperial residence, but now there were nearly 2,400 soldiers guarding the place. It was much safer. When Lin Muyu escorted Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi into the temporary imperial residence, the supervisor of the temporary imperial residence came forward and knelt on the ground. This lowly official, Zhou Tong, pays his respects to Your Highness Yin, and General Lin and General Chu. Qin Yin waved her hand. There's no need to be so polite. Rise. Zhou Tong hurriedly stood up and smiled. I'm glad to hear that Your Highness has arrived at the hunting ground. This lowly official has already ordered the servants to prepare a delicious and exquisite dinner. Your Highness can eat after a short rest. Qin Yin probably didn't have much of an appetite either. She tugged on Tang Xiaoxi's hand and said, Lord Zhou Tong, just arrange a room for me and Xiaoxi tonight. I will sleep with Xiaoxi. Yes, Your Highness. Chu Huaying, Wei Chou, and the others stood guard in the corridor. Lin Muyu carried a black bag on her back, which contained the sleeping little dragon. She followed Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to the room, and arranged for the imperial guards along the way to ensure their safety. Qin Yin had a lot on her mind and didn't say much until they entered the room. Her pet, the golden crag swift wolf, kept staring at the bag on Lin Muyu's back and growled softly. However, every time the little dragon in the bag moved and stretched, the golden crag swift wolf would immediately whimper and retreat a few steps. It looked both angry and scared, and it was simply too cowardly. Little wolf, what's wrong? Qin Yin was a little confused. She furrowed her brows and said, Brother Yu, is there something in the bag on your back? Why does my little wolf look so scared? What is it? Tang Xiaoxi sat on the soft bed and smiled. Yes, Mu. Why are you acting so mysterious? Lin Muyu pursed her lips and stood on the edge of the wall with her arms crossed. She smiled and said, 2 days ago, I went to the Imperial Chamber of Commerce to participate in their auction for baby spiritual beasts. That's why I bought a dragon egg. Baby spiritual beast auction? Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said with a smile, that's just a trick. There are so many nobles in Lanyan City who keep spiritual beasts, but in the end, the spiritual beasts either get lost, or they turn on their owners and are taken away by the inspection officers as supper. Moo, you're such a smart person. Why would you buy such a deceptive thing? Lin Muyu spread out her hands and said with a smile, but I really bought it, and the dragon egg hatched this morning. Really? Tang Xiaoxi was shocked. Qin Yin also opened her small mouth, and a glimmer of light appeared in her pair of beautiful eyes. Brother you're not lying to me and Xiaoxi, are you? When have I ever lied to you? Lin Muyu smiled and said, Little dragon, come out and meet the two big sisters. A woo, the Acatosaurus's distinctive cry came from the cloth bag. It struggled hard, but still couldn't find the exit of the bag. All it could do was howl. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. What on earth is it? Lin Muyu shook the bag, and immediately a pet wrapped in red crystals fell on the carpet. The Acatosaurus howled and immediately turned around to hug Lin Muyu's leg with its claws. It seemed to be very scared, and its tail wrapped in red crystal scales was still sweeping on the carpet, looking scared and naughty. Qin Yin couldn't help laughing. Wow, what a cute puppy. It's a holy dragon, not a puppy. Lin Muyu reached out to grab the Acatosaurus's tail, lifted it up, and came to Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. She said with a smile, Here, meet the two beauties of our Lanyan city. Don't be so shy. Who would have thought that the little dragon would suddenly burp and let out a satisfied sound? At the same time, it opened its mouth and spat out a small ball of flame with a hua sound. Its big eyes blinked as it looked at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Its little claws were waving wildly as if it wanted a hug. It was in girls' nature to like cute things. In an instant, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hearts seemed to melt. They took the Acatosaurus from Lin Muyu's hands and put it on Qin Yin's lap. Qin Yin also looked up and said reproachfully, Brother if this is really the legendary holy dragon Acatosaurus, how can you raise it like a dog? Lin Muyu laughed. It's almost like a puppy. At this time, the Acatosaurus had already opened its front claws and hugged Qin Yin's wrist. At the same time, it stuck out its tender tongue and licked Tang Xiaoxi's index finger. Its big eyes were wide open, looking at one beauty and then the other beauty, as if it was bursting with joy. So cute, Qin Yin said with a smile, Brother let me play with it for a few days, okay? Sure. Lin Muyu crossed her arms in front of her chest and said with a smile, I will accompany you and Xiaoxi for the next few days. You can play with it however you want, just don't break it. Oh right, Xiao Yin, let Xiaoxi learn the art of psychic communication. In the future, when the opportunity arises, Xiaoxi will also be able to obtain a powerful spirit beast. Yes, I've already taught her. That's good. Regarding this Acatosaurus, you must keep it a secret. If others find out, it might bring about a lot of trouble. Got it. Alright, let's rest for a while and then we'll go eat. Okay. Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile, have a good rest tonight. Tomorrow morning, we'll bring this little dragon to go hunting. Oh right, it hasn't given it a name yet, right? Do you want me and Xiao Yin to give it a nice name? Okay, as long as you guys are happy. Lin Muyu didn't mind. Anyway, the main task this time was to accompany Qin Yin out to relax. If the little dragon could make Qin Yin happy, it didn't matter if it was named Wumengda. Chapter 253. The dinner was very sumptuous. The officials of the summer palace bought some game from the hunters in the surrounding villages. Firebird meat, thunder wolf meat, earth bear paw, thorn bird, golden-scaled fish, and so on were all available. The officials of the summer palace worked hard to please the future monarch. However, Qin Yin's appetite was not very good. On the other hand, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, Wei Chou, and the others ate a lot and drank a little wine. After all, everyone had a heavy responsibility. Tang Xiaoxi ordered the servants to bring some unfinished food to the room. Her purpose was naturally to feed the little dragon. Lin Muyu sat at the side and watched the two beauties of Lanyan City make the little dragon happy. She was very relaxed. The little dragon howled, kicked over the bowls and chopsticks, and threw itself on the ground to devour the bear paw, golden-scaled fish, and other delicious food. Although this little guy was small, his appetite was really good. He had eaten at least 3 to 5 times his size for the whole day. This couldn't help but make Lin Muyu a little worried. She had seen the size of an adult Acatosaurus. It was about the size of a giant elephant. If it still maintained such an appetite, she was afraid that sooner or later, she would become poor because of this little guy. Big brother you. Qin Yin walked over and knelt on the ground. She put her arm on Lin Muyu's leg and said in a coquettish tone, "Let the little dragon sleep in our room tonight, okay?" This. Lin Muyu said, "Are you sure that this little guy won't be discovered?" "Well, we won't let anyone in tonight." "That's good. I'll sleep next door. Just call me if you need anything." "Okay, tomorrow morning, Xiaoxi and I will help the little guy think of a name." "Okay." Lin Muyu looked around. The golden rock swift wolf was curled up in the corner and whining. It was so cowardly. No wonder it fell out of favor. On the other hand, the Acatosaurus didn't seem to be afraid of people at all. It crawled on Tang Xiaoxi's legs and rubbed against Qin Yin's slender legs. Even Lin Muyu was a little jealous. The golden rock swift wolf was naturally even more jealous. However, every time it tried to get close to Qin Yin, the little dragon would quickly turn around and howl at it. The golden rock swift wolf immediately shrank back and trembled on the ground. The next morning, I woke up early. When I arrived at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's room, the two beauties were already dressed. Qin Yin had changed into a luxurious leather armor that accentuated her curvaceous figure. She wore a deep blue princess cloak that was tied in front of her chest with a golden-purple flower clasp. Tang Xiaoxi had changed into a snow-white robe that made her look even more beautiful. Today was the day of the hunt, and the two beauties were indeed very attractive. The little dragon was still sleeping soundly on the carpet beside the bed. Lin Muyu coughed and immediately stood up. It looked at Lin Muyu with wide eyes, as if waiting for orders. "Have you thought of a name?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. "Yes, I have." Qin Yin nodded seriously and said, "The little guy's scarlet scales are sparkling and translucent. It looks like an apple in the dragon-seeking forest in autumn, so." Xiaoxi and I agreed that we should name it Little Apple. Don't you think this name is very appropriate?" Lin Muyu shuddered all over. Little Apple. Suddenly, the scene of many aunties dancing in the square appeared in his mind. It was so different from the scene in front of him. Moreover, once the little dragon grew up, it was full of majesty, the holy dragon Acatosaurus. That kind of arrogance, and the name, Little Apple. Wouldn't it laugh in battle? "What's wrong, are you not satisfied?" Qin Yin stepped forward to take his hand and said, "If you are not satisfied, Xiaoxi and I will continue to think of a better name." Lin Muyu hurriedly shook her head. "No, I am very satisfied. This name is simply tailor-made for it. I don't need to say anything else. Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi are really smart. Such a unique and reasonable name was actually thought of by you too. I am very impressed." Qin Yin glanced at him and chuckled. "Brother Yu is really a big idiot. He doesn't even know how to compliment others. But Xiaoxi and I really think this name is good. Then, it's settled." Lin Muyu stepped forward and grabbed the little dragon's tail. "From now on, you will be called Little Apple. Do you remember? You're a dragon with a name now, so you must remember your dignity as a member of the Holy Dragon tribe. Don't do that kind of shameful dragon thing anymore. F***ck, who told you to poop here, you bastard?" Lin Muyu forcefully pulled the dragon's tail, while Little Apple waved its front claws at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi for help. However, it was too late. It was immediately pulled into a black cloth bag by Lin Muyu and carried on her back. It could only curl up into a ball and let its master carry it. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi giggled. At this moment, the haze that Qin Yin brought about by Su Qin's death was finally swept away. In fact, although Su Qin was Qin Yin's uncle, after all, they had not seen each other for too many years. Their feelings for each other had long faded, so they forgot each other relatively quickly. It was not that Qin Yin was fickle, it was just that things in the world were like this. Early in the morning, after a simple breakfast, the first day of hunting began. Under Chu Huayin's orders, 2,000 imperial guards spread out and surrounded the entire hunting ground. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the other eagle guards patrolled around with longbows in hand, preventing anyone from entering the hunting ground. The real hunting was carried out by Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi. The others were actually just companions, as long as they could make the princess happy. The 3 warhorses entered the forest, and the imperial guards behind them also spread out far away. Lin Muyu extended her spiritual sense and did not find any powerful enemies within a 10-mile radius. However, there were many spirit beasts in the hunting ground, and some of their auras were actually quite strong. Qin Yin held a carved jade bow and said with a smile, "Brother Yu, Shao Shi, let's compete to see who can shoot more prey. How about it?" "Sure." Tang Xiaoxi held her longbow and said with a smile, "My archery skills were personally taught to me by my grandfather." Lin Muyu felt a little awkward. Although he had learned archery from Wei Chou for a few days, he really couldn't use it. He could only follow the 2 beauties in the forest without saying a word. In the distance, a group of 200-year-old wolves were fleeing. These wolves had already been alerted by the imperial guards, so how would they take the initiative to attack humans? Furthermore, spirit beasts weren't stupid. The wolves could feel the auras of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi, so they naturally wouldn't come to their deaths. Qin Yin quickly galloped forward and quickly pulled out an arrow. With a whoosh, the arrow left the bowstring. In the next moment, a 120-year-old wolf fell to the ground and died. Tang Xiaoxi also drew her bow, and another wolf fell to the ground. Lin Muyu's heart sank. He hurriedly stopped his horse and shot. The arrow flew out and sank into a tree. Hee, Qin Yin smiled extremely sweetly, "Brother Yu, call me master and Shao Yin will teach you archery." Without saying a word, Lin Muyu raised his hand and a little magic sonar knife flew out. The wolf that seemed to be mocking him fell to the ground. 2 seconds later, the little magic sonar knife returned from its invisible state to his palm. Qin Yin pouted, shameless. Tang Xiaoxi held back her laughter. Lin Muyu said, "It's a hunt. As long as we can kill, we don't have to care about anything else." However, at this moment, Xiao Pingwa suddenly crawled out of the sack and landed on the ground. Like a rabbit, he dashed towards the corpse of the swift wolf that Lin Muyu had killed. It was a 200-year-old swift wolf. Xiao Pingwa opened his mouth and bit down on the neck of the swift wolf's corpse, and began to gulp it down. Ah! Qin Yin's mouth opened wide. Xiao Pingwa actually ate it raw, yes. Lin Muyu urged his horse forward, only to find that Xiao Pingwa had quickly swallowed a small part of the wolf's corpse. At the same time, it had also swallowed the beast spirit of the 200-year-old wolf. Tang Xiaoxi was slightly surprised. After dismounting, she picked up Xiao Pingwa and wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth. "Mu, Shao Yin, look at Xiao Pingwa's forehead. There are 2 gray lines on the scales. What's going on?" Qin Yin was stunned, and said in a low voice, "This is the sign of a 20-year-old beast. This Acatosaurus can increase its own cultivation by quickly devouring the beast spirit of other beasts." Lin Muyu was also stunned, and she could not help but feel happy. That's great. Let it devour more beast spirits. Who knows, it might be able to speed up its growth. Shao Yin, in the history of the empire, were there dragon knights? Yes. Qin Yin nodded seriously. The founding general Luo Tonghai was a dragon knight, but he rode a black-scale dragon, which was not part of the Holy Dragon clan. However, The fact that Luo Tonghai was able to ride a dragon with his cultivation alone is already a legend. Lin Muyu clenched her fist confidently, and smiled, then I might be another dragon knight. Tang Xiaoxi laughed, you want to ride Xiaopingua? Yes, can't I? Sure, just don't crush it to death, gosh. They continued hunting, and soon, Qin Yin killed a 300-year-old bramble bear. She ordered her golden rock swift wolf to devour the beast spirit. Although the golden rock swift wolf was fierce, it seemed to be afraid of Xiaopingua. It was scared away by Xiaopingua halfway through. After scaring away the golden rock swift wolf, Xiaopingua immediately began to eat. With another 10 years of cultivation, it had become a 30-year-old Acatosaurus. Unfortunately, it only grew in strength and did not grow in size. It still looked so small. Soon, when Lin Muyu killed a 1,200-year-old swift wolf, she ordered Xiaopingua to devour the beast spirit. In the end, Xiaopingua actually circled the swift wolf's corpse 7 or 8 times before kneeling in front of Lin Muyu. It squinted its eyes and looked very unhappy. What's going on? Lin Muyu was a little puzzled. Qin Yin said, spirit beasts cannot devour beast spirits that are much stronger than them, otherwise they will be devoured. Xiaopingua is really smart, he knows that there are some spirit beasts that cannot be eaten, so it's like that. Lin Muyu raised her engraved bow and continued to kill the spirit beasts that were less than 1,000 years old. Since the royal hunting ground rarely had people, it was a waste of food to keep these spirit beasts. Chapter 254. Throughout the morning, Little Apple had devoured at least 10 swift wolves and thorn bears beast spirits. Finally, the 10 gray lines on its forehead had condensed into a silver line. This proved that Little Apple had grown into a 100-year-old spirit beast. Although it was weak, its potential was limitless. Burp, the little fellow sat beside Lin Muyu's legs, burping and lazily basking in the sun. Qin Yin gently stroked Little Apple's head and smiled. It seems that the beast spirits it absorbed this morning have reached its cultivation limit. It needs to digest well before it can continue to devour beast spirits to cultivate. Lin Muyu nodded. She and the little dragon had a soul contract, so she could naturally sense the saturation of the spiritual power in the little dragon's body. However, the little dragon was growing too fast. This saturation state would not last long. It needed more power to grow. In order to raise this little fellow, Lin Muyu was destined to suffer a lot. They had a simple lunch at noon and continued hunting in the afternoon. It seemed that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were no longer interested in hunting, but in raising their pets. Qin Yin's golden rock swift wolf had also devoured many beast spirits. Although it was growing slowly, it was still growing. In fact, Lin Muyu still had a lot of expectations for the golden rock swift wolf. If the golden rock swift wolf could grow to more than 5,000 years, it should be able to protect its master. But obviously, the little dragon was more worth looking forward to. It had devoured many beast spirits in one afternoon and had already grown to the realm of 200 years. Under Lin Muyu's suggestion, Qin Yin decided to stay in the dragon-seeking forest for 2 more days. As expected, the little dragon's appetite was even bigger the next day. In just one morning, it had devoured dozens of spirit beasts, wild beast spirits. It looked exactly like a gluttonous snake. But when it was almost noon, the little dragon suddenly let out a strange "ao-ao" sound, and a 5th silver line slowly appeared on its head. 500 years. Tang Xiaoxi got off the horse and knelt down to take care of Xiaolong. Is Little Apple all right? He looks like he's in a lot of pain. Lin Muyu could sense the change in the little dragon's power. She shook her head and said, "Don't worry, it's fine. It's just that its body is full of spiritual power. It seems like it needs to release." Really? Tang Xiaoxi asked in surprise. How does it release it? This. Lin Muyu couldn't explain it clearly. However, at this moment, the cries of the little dragon suddenly became even more mournful. It raised its head high, and even its fangs extended. Flames slowly rose from its mouth, and its body also began to change. It seemed to be growing, and its body became more muscular. The red crystal scales all over its body also became larger, reflecting an extremely bright luster under the sunlight. Hum. Suddenly, the little dragon raised its tail and released 2 whiffs of foul air. It was extremely smelly. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly took a few steps back. Their beautiful faces paled. Little apple, it's, Lin Muyu chuckled. That's right. Farting is how it releases its energy. Perhaps there are too many impurities in the wild beast souls it devoured, so it's releasing them in this way. Of course, Lin Muyu knew that the Acatosaurus in front of her was not just simply farting. It was undergoing its first draconic transformation. That's right, it was a necessary step for a young dragon to evolve into an adult dragon. In less than 10 minutes, the little dragon's body had doubled in size. It already looked like a large dog. At the same time, its 4 claws had become particularly strong, and the claws looked as sharp as a knife. Under the soul contract, Lin Muyu could feel the changes in the little dragon's heart. It had already obtained its first draconic transformation ability. Turning around, she looked at Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin. Lin Muyu smiled. Xiao Yin, do you want to see the power of a 500-year-old Acatosaurus? Huh? Qin Yin opened her small mouth. Little apple can already fight? Yes, it can. Lin Muyu ordered telepathically. Little apple, let me see your power. A woo, the little dragon raised its head and let out a proud roar. This time, it finally had a little bit of the dignity of the dragon race. In the next second, it had already rushed out, heading straight for an ancient pine tree with a diameter of nearly 50 centimeters not far away. Its speed did not decrease at all. Ah, it's going to hit the tree. Tang Xiaoxi almost could not bear to watch. However, just as it was about to hit the tree, the little dragon suddenly raised its front claws. With a whoosh, the dragon power condensed into a sharp claw at least half a meter long. With a sudden strike, the huge pine tree was instantly cut in half. Amidst the rumbling sound, the huge tree slowly collapsed. It was a very shocking scene. That tree, is that the legendary iron pine tree? Qin Yin's small face was full of shock. It actually broke the iron pine tree with just 1 claw. Heavens, such power! The iron pine tree was a distant relative of the iron pear flower. They were all plants with an iron layer growing on their surface. They were indestructible, and even swords could not penetrate them. However, an Acatosaurus's attack had easily cut it in half. Lin Muyu knew that she could do it easily with the dragon spirit sword. However, this Acatosaurus was only 500 years old. A 500-year-old spiritual beast could not possibly cut the iron pine tree. A woo, the little dragon wagged its tail and ran back to Lin Muyu, asking for credit. Lin Muyu patted its head and said with a smile, "Not bad, not bad. It's only the first time you've transformed into a dragon and you already have such strength. You really don't disappoint me." In the game Conquer, as an Einherjar, Lin Muyu owned an Acatosaurus. The Acatosaurus in the game was exactly the same as the little dragon in front of her. Even their abilities were the same. The ability obtained from the first dragon transformation was called Phantom Claw. It could transform into a dragon's claw to attack its target. The legendary Acatosaurus had sharp teeth and claws. However, the little apple was getting bigger and bigger. This made Lin Muyu a little worried. She could not possibly bring such a big guy around in the future, could she? After that, the little dragon did not eat anything. After its first dragon transformation, it needed a long period of rest. Otherwise, its body would not be able to withstand such a strong power. Back in her room in the palace, Lin Muyu was still unhappy. She was worried about the little dragon's future size. At this moment, the voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from her high again. "Lin Ruoji, let's make a deal." "How about it?" "Oh, what deal do I have with you?" Lin Muyu said. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. "In your world, you are the son of a business tycoon. Don't you understand the principle of mutual benefit? You help me with something and I will help you with something. How about that? Then tell me, what can you help me with? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled. Do you know about breaking through the void? Breaking through the void? Lin Muyu shook her head in surprise. I don't know. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's tone was full of disdain. You are indeed a weak fool. Let me tell you, your current cultivation is the heavenly state. The next step is the holy state. However, the holy state is just a small stop in the process of cultivation. The ultimate goal of cultivation is to live forever. If you want to have eternal life, step into the godly state, refine your soul, and get rid of your mortal body. This is the direction you are pursuing. And then? Every cultivator who steps into the first heaven of the godly state will automatically understand the power of breaking through the void. Only by mastering the power of breaking through the void can you break through the laws of space. This also means that after stepping into the godly state, you can perform a short-distance space jump and use your divine power to forcefully open a crack in space. As long as you do me a favor, I can teach you in advance the power of breaking through the void that only gods have. As long as you master the basics of breaking through the void, you will naturally be able to open a crack in space for your Acatosaurus, allowing it to live in a different space. When you need it, you can summon it back to the shattered cauldron realm where you are. There's such a good thing. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. Then what you want me to do for you, it must not be something good, right? Tell me about it first. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. No, it's actually very simple. I just hope that you can open the second realm of the Sea of Will, so that I can cultivate in the second realm of the Sea of Will and enjoy the rest of my life. Cultivate in the Sea of Will? Lin Muyu was shocked. Yes, that's right. The 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch said with a hint of pride, the truth is, everyone's EC contains an endless amount of energy. You just need to open up the second layer of your EC for me, and I'll be able to plant a field with the spiritual root in my EC. Otherwise, I'll be bored to death doing nothing all day. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor, do you think I'm a monkey? No matter how stupid I am, I can guess that you want to use the energy derived from the spirit fields to enrich your spiritual energy and use it to counterattack me. Isn't that right? The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed loudly. You're indeed not stupid, but you have that damn cauldron. It's enough to contend against this Emperor's 7th Luminary's profound energy. What are you worried about? I'm not worried. Lin Muyu regained her composure. She smiled faintly. Deal. This time, it was the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor who was shocked. Brat, are you crazy? You dare to make a deal with me like this? What's there to be afraid of? I need the power to shatter the void. Good, ahaha, you've got guts. This Emperor likes idiots who aren't afraid of death like you. Come, in the next few days, I will teach you the essentials of shattering the void. However, your body can't withstand the mighty distortion of space, so you can only learn a little. You can use it to transport a Catosaurus, but forget about your own body. It will be torn to pieces by the power of the plane. Got it. Sitting upright on the bed, she opened the second layer of her Sea of Will. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor's profound energy quickly occupied this layer. Spiritual roots were planted in the Sea of Will and grew rapidly. At the same time, the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor's soul also gifted a large amount of energy to Lin Muyu. In an instant, a strong force surged into her brain. Lin Muyu let out a muffled groan and fainted on the bed. Chapter 255. By the time she woke up, it was already nightfall. Lin Muyu shook her head vigorously. She still felt that her mind was a little sluggish, but she could clearly feel a very mysterious power surging in her body. She stood up. Not far away, the little dragon was curled up in a corner and sleeping soundly. This sleep seemed to have made its body grow a lot. Looking at her palm, Lin Muyu was secretly a little suspicious. The 7 luminaries demon emperor had promised to teach her the power to break through the void. What was it exactly? She could not feel it at all now. She focused her spiritual sense and sank her chi into her dantian, guiding the mysterious power in her body to slowly move around. This power seemed to have its own intelligence and moved to her legs. It swelled up and even shone with a dazzling dark blue light through her combat boots. It had reached the point where she had to use it. Lin Muyu's breathing became more and more rapid. Finally, she could not suppress this power anymore. Her combat boots suddenly stomped on the ground. Suddenly, with a schwa sound, mysterious dark blue energy cubes appeared in her field of vision. The cubes bloomed one by one, as if she could reach out and touch them. With her as the axis, they spread out in 3 directions. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Ever since she came to this world, she had seen many mysterious powers. The power of the martial soul, fighting energy, and so on. They were all very mysterious, but never as mysterious as this power in front of her. It could be described as vast as the sea, as deep as the stars. Moreover, the scenery in front of her seemed to have disappeared. The bed, the armor hanging on it, and the little dragon had all disappeared. All Lin Muyu could see was the divine space constructed by the energy cubes. The voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from her high. Hey, Lin Muyu, this is what you will see when you first enter the divine state. I will let you experience it first. Breaking through the void is not that easy to understand. The energy space you see in front of you is the most basic structure of this world. You must use your own power to break this rule in order to break through the void. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and stood still. She slowly urged her vigorous fighting energy to tear through this 3-dimensional space. However, it seemed that she did not have the strength to do so. Only divine power could break the rules of space. How could his fighting energy break through it? Break! The dragon's spirit sword slashed heavily on the energy grid, but sparks burst out. The tyrannical power of space was like steel, causing Lin Muyu and her sword to fly back. She turned around and stood firm. Her face was covered in sweat. This was the 27th time she had tried to break through the space with her martial soul and fighting energy, but she had failed every time. In her high, the 7 luminaries demon emperor could be faintly seen. They had already planted a lush green corn field and a lush green rice field in the second layer of Lin Muyu's high. What are you looking at? The 7 brilliance demon monarch was squatting in the spiritual field, straightening a stalk of corn with his palm. He raised his head and glanced into the sky. He said smilingly after sensing Lin Muyu's gaze, "Just focus on studying your space-shattering art. There's no point talking about it if you can't even pass the most basic stage." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. Her body appeared in the air of the high. She stretched out her hand and pointed, "You are planting these things in my high. I want half of the benefits." The 7 luminaries demon emperor stared and said, "You are too greedy. You want half? Do you think I, the 7 luminaries demon emperor, am a vegetarian? I will at most give you 20%. Stop talking nonsense. You are planting spiritual fields in my high. You are at most a tenant farmer. What right do you have to challenge me? I said I want half, so I want half." Actually, Lin Muyu did not know what these spiritual fields were for, but she still wanted to take the benefits. What was there to be polite with the 7 luminaries demon emperor? Alright, the 7 luminaries demon emperor compromised. He stood majestically in the middle of the spiritual fields. The power of the 3rd level of the godly state enshrouded his body. His aura was majestic, as if he wanted to twist the entire space. He smiled and said, "Lin Ruoji, you better study your divine power. I have given you about 5% of my divine power. If you do not make good use of it, it will be too much of a waste." "You gave me 5% of your divine power?" Lin Muyu was shocked. 5% of his divine power was equivalent to 5% of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's divine power. Although the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had less than 10% of his original divine power, with his strength at his peak, even 0.5% of his divine power should be enough for Lin Muyu to dominate the world, right? Where is the divine power? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed and said, divine power is an energy substance. Naturally, it is in your energy sea. Do you think it is in your head? Feel it well. The part of your energy sea that is most different from the essence of your power was given to you by me. Oh, Lin Muyu did feel that there was something strange in his energy sea. It turned out that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was so generous. Hence, he paid attention to the body in the energy sea and cupped his fists and said, thank you, 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was stunned. He never knew that this kid could be so courteous. In the past, when he saw him, he would shout and kill him. At this moment, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was speechless. When he wanted to speak, he looked up and saw that Lin Muyu's spiritual sense had already flown out of his high. Hong hong hong, in her chi sea, streams of battle energy were extremely vigorous, surging like raging waves. Lin Muyu tried her best to circulate her battle energy, trying to find that strange divine power. After about 10 minutes, she finally found a ray of golden light in the midst of the waves in her chi sea. Found it. Come out. With a low roar, the divine power was immediately summoned. It appeared directly in the palm of his hand and lingered around his fingers like waves of ripples. It looked soft, but the destructive power contained within was very shocking. Lin Muyu leaped into the air, condensed her left hand into a palm, and slammed it down on the energy cube not far away. Pung! This time, it worked. It directly blasted a big hole in the energy square, and a small space crack appeared. However, this space crack existed for less than 0.1 seconds before it closed again, which made Lin Muyu very sad. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's arrogant laughter came from the high. Lin Muyu, you idiot, divine power is not used like this. Lin Muyu frowned. Yes, he also felt that the 0.5% divine power that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor gave him was enough to cut through space, but why couldn't he succeed? At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's voice came from outside. Mu, it's time for dinner. Come out quickly. He was slightly startled and hurriedly said, Xiaoxi, I'm cultivating. I won't be eating. Help me get some meat and put it in your room. When I'm done cultivating, I'll go to your room. Okay. The sound of footsteps could be heard. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin had gone far away. Lin Muyu continued to concentrate on his cultivation, but this time, he was not in a hurry to cut through space. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the axis where he was. His spiritual sense slowly spread out, feeling the mysteries of this space. After a few hours, he suddenly remembered that his position was the axis of space, and the directions of the energy squares were in the X, Y, and Z axis. This was not some divine power cutting through space at all, but clearly a dimensional space. Dimension. That's right, this was it. Although Lin Muyu was the king of games, his results were not bad. He was also very knowledgeable in astrophysics. The space that people were in was a 3-dimensional space, but if the void shattering really existed, it would be equivalent to destroying this 3-dimensional space. But how could one surpass the 3 dimensions of the 3-dimensional space? Perhaps it would require the power of the 4th dimension. From the beginning, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor did not really teach him how to step through the void shattering. Instead, he gave him a concept for himself to explore. The so-called power of the void shattering, in other words, was the power of a godly state expert transformed into the 4th dimension. That's right, it was the power of the 4th dimension. Lin Muyu was suddenly ecstatic. He had found the trick. As long as the speed of his attack exceeded the speed of light and reached the definition of the power of the 4th dimension, he would be able to break the laws of space and cut a hole in the existing space. That's right, that's it. He suddenly stood up. This time, he did not accumulate the divine power in his palms, but in the soles of his feet. He released his spiritual sense, and the power of the virtual body moved quickly in the three-dimensional space, running all the way to the north of the dragon-seeking forest. With the divine power added to the fallen star steps, his speed was a little shocking, getting faster and faster, approaching the speed of light. Lin Muyu could not help but wail. Moving at the speed of light constantly burned his spiritual sense, and at the same time, brought unimaginable pain to his body. Now! The 7 luminaries demon emperor suddenly shouted in the sea. Lin Muyu understood. His spiritual sense, which was thousands of miles away, suddenly struck out with his palm. Bang! Amidst the shocking sound, the flames in the forest north of Seven Seas City exploded, and a huge space crack with a radius of about 2 meters appeared in the forest. Not far away, a few cloud deer called out and pricked up their ears, looking very surprised. When Lin Muyu withdrew his power, the space crack also closed naturally. He let out a light breath and sat on the ground softly. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled and said, I didn't expect you to really understand the profound meaning of the power to break through the void. You really did not let me down. However, so what if you opened the space crack thousands of miles away? I can break through the space 1 meter in front of me, you are still far from it. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. 7 luminaries demon emperor, I know this is very difficult, but I will work hard. Also, this so-called power to break through the void. In fact, in my world, it is called the 4-dimensional power. As long as the attack speed reaches the speed of light, it can achieve the effect of breaking through space. In this aspect, I'm afraid there is a person called Einstein who has studied it more thoroughly than you. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was stunned and was speechless again. Lin Muyu rested for a short while and continued to cultivate. What he needed to do was to raise the speed of his spiritual sense to the speed of light in the shortest time possible. It would be best if he could reach the speed of light within 10 meters, and he could only do this with his spiritual sense. As for his physical body, just like what the 7 luminaries demon emperor said, he was a mortal and could not withstand the impact of such speed friction. Chapter 256. It wasn't until the latter half of the night that Lin Muyu's spiritual sense and divine power finally became more compatible. She was able to create a spatial crack 10 miles away, but it was still too far away. She couldn't possibly let Xiaolong find the spatial crack 10 miles away and enter it, right? At this moment, she was exhausted and didn't have enough physical strength to support her cultivation. She went out and went to the next door. She knocked on the door and asked, Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, are you asleep? Creak, the door opened. Tang Xiaoxi was only wearing pajamas. She rubbed her eyes and said, why did Mu cultivate so late? It's crazy. Xiao Yin is asleep. The food I brought for you is on the table. Okay, thank you. Lin Muyu smiled and walked over. When she turned around, she realized that Qin Yin had indeed fallen asleep. The moonlight shone on her beautiful face, giving off a bright glow. She was sleeping very peacefully and was extremely charming. The food was placed in a golden cauldron. Lin Muyu picked it up and whispered, I'll go back to my room to eat. Xiaoxi, you should also go to bed early and rest well. Are we going back to Lanyan City tomorrow? Yes. Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said with a smile, we've been out for almost 3 days. His Majesty sent someone to visit Xiao Yin and said that he misses her very much, so Xiao Yin decided to leave tomorrow. Will this affect Xiao Yin's cultivation? It won't. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, Xiaolong has absorbed too much spiritual power. He needs to digest it for a period of time to grow, so there's no need to be too anxious. Okay. Lin Muyu carried the golden pot out of the door and looked back at Tang Xiaoxi with a smile. Sleep early. Good night. Okay, Mu. Good night. Tang Xiaoxi rubbed her beautiful eyes and went back to sleep. On the other side of the corridor, Chu Huijin stood in the darkness with his hand on his sword. He stood straight and looked straight ahead. He silently guarded outside the room of the princess and princess. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "Brother Chu, are you asleep?" Chu Huayin chuckled. "Yes, I'm a little worried about other people keeping watch, but I didn't see anything." You can do whatever you want, hee f*ck. Lin Muyu grinned and carried the golden cauldron back to his room. He had to cultivate the fourth dimension as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would not be able to keep the little dragon growing day by day. After returning to his room, he wolfed down a cauldron of delicious food. He felt that he couldn't fall asleep, so he continued to cultivate the fourth dimension. Gradually, the strand of divine power given by the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor no longer rejected Lin Muyu's spiritual sense, body, and battle energy. It was even able to coexist with battle energy. This made Lin Muyu very happy. The more perfect the compatibility, the faster his spiritual sense could move. Perhaps he could really do what the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor did and create a crack in space nearby. After cultivating again and again, this strand of divine power had become a treasure. Not only did it greatly increase the strength of his spiritual sense, it also seemed to be refining Lin Muyu's physique, bones, and blood. Although he wasn't a godly state ranker, he seemed to have inherited the power of a godly state ranker. By early morning, the results of his cultivation were obvious. His spiritual sense was like a bullet that could already create a crack in space 3 miles away. However, it was still far from enough. If he wanted it to be practical, he had to create a crack in space within 100 meters. However, he didn't have time to cultivate anymore. After breakfast, he got on the horse and wrapped the little dragon in a black cloth bag. Then, he escorted Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi back to Lanyan City. He didn't stay idle during the journey. The strand of divine power given by the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor slowly circulated in his body, increasing his compatibility with the power. Lin Muyu secretly felt that it was a pity that the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor wasn't one of them. Otherwise, if he gave her more divine power, she might be able to ascend to become a god while she was still alive. The 7 brilliance demon monarch in Lin Muyu's will see swiftly read his thoughts. He could not help but burst out laughing. "Lin Muyu, don't even think about it. My talents are unparalleled. I don't mind giving you more god force, but your flesh and soul can only endure this much god force. If I give you more, it will only destroy you, and you will die from the backlash of the god force." Lin Muyu's expression changed drastically. Lin Muyu nodded. His spiritual sense entered his high and said, "I have seen a battle between gods. It was the battle between you and Qin Yi and the others in the 17th level of purgatory. Therefore, I know my own limits and have a certain amount of respect for gods." "Oh." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's eyes widened. He pointed at the spiritual field behind him and scolded, "After I accidentally entered your high, have you ever respected me at all? Damn, hypocrite." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. "Ha, that's all a misunderstanding. Who asked you to only think about taking over my body all day? If there was such a person living in your body, you wouldn't be able to respect me. Humph, at least you know what's good for you." The 7 brilliance demon monarch said with a calm smile, "However, the truth isn't what you think it is. The battle between me and Qin Yi and the other martial god realm experts did not happen a few months ago, but 200 years ago." "What? 200 years ago?" Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. How was that possible? If it was a battle that happened 200 years ago, how could I have seen it? I'm only in my 20s. Ha ha ha, that's why I said your knowledge is too shallow. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Qin Yi, that old bastard, is full of schemes and schemes. He can be considered a hero of his generation. He had long cultivated to the 3rd level of God state and became a true God Emperor. Therefore, he used the God Emperor's battle samsara power to reverse time and lured me into the 17th level of purgatory. Therefore, although you saw that battle, it had already ended 200 years ago. It was just that you entered a space-time gap, so you were lucky enough to obtain a tiny bit of this Emperor's 7 luminaries' profound energy. Battle Samsara, Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. She muttered, Demon Emperor, you're saying, a God Emperor at the 3rd level of God state can use his divine power to reverse time? Yes. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said faintly, but this power cannot change the course of history. However, it seems like you are an exception. You entered a spacetime gap 200 years ago and actually managed to come to the plane 200 years later. Forget it, this is probably fate. If it wasn't for you, this Emperor's soul would have been scattered 200 years ago and I would have perished together with that old bastard Qin Yi. As he said that, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor sat down on the cornfield and laughed happily. To think that even now, that old bastard Qin Yi has already perished, yet this Emperor can still plant spiritual fields here. Ha ha ha, this is the difference between strength and luck. Humph, that scheming villain Qin Yi is destined to not be as happy as this Emperor. Lin Muyu's face was filled with contempt. However, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's words were too shocking. She had actually experienced a war that ended 200 years ago and brought the soul of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor 200 years into the future. This was indeed an opportunity. Thinking about it carefully, if it wasn't for the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's help, she would probably have become a pile of desolate bones under the iron hooves of this world. At this moment, the first cornfield in the spiritual field had ripened. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor let out a low roar and began to absorb the spiritual energy of the crops in the spiritual field. In the blink of an eye, the stalks of corn shriveled up. The rich spiritual energy continuously surged into the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's body, causing his damaged soul to rapidly recover. At this rate, within half a year, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's soul would probably recover completely. At that time, how would Lin Muyu be able to control him? As if he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor raised his head and smiled. Don't worry, this Emperor's goal is to trample the God realm. I won't fight with a weakling like you for this human continent, nor will I kill you. As long as I find a suitable body in the future, you just need to help me a little. Open your high and let me go. Lin Muyu curled her lips. As if I'd believe you. You said you would give me half of the spiritual field, so I want the other half of the cornfield. Okay. At this moment, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense entered his high and condensed his primordial spirit body. With a leap, he landed in the cornfield, broke off a stalk of corn, and sniffed it. There was a fragrant smell, and more importantly, it contained supreme spiritual energy. Lin Muyu didn't care that much and took a bite. The corn juice immediately splashed out. So fragrant. As he chewed, spiritual energy continuously surged into his body, replenishing the battle energy that he had lost during cultivation. This was indeed good stuff. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was indeed a qualified tenant farmer. Thus, after eating half of the spiritual corn, Lin Muyu's physical strength and battle energy had almost recovered to the peak. He sat on the horse and closed his eyes as he walked. The Forging Dragon Bone manual circulated in his body. He had to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could he survive, reach the God realm, and obtain the power of reincarnation. Time would flow back. No matter how long it took, he could return to the real world, see his young father and brother, and live the life he wanted. They arrived at Zetian Palace in the afternoon and ordered Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others to return to Eagle Nest Mountain. Lin Muyu entered the palace and went to see the emperor with Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Huaying. After not seeing them for 3 days, Qin Jin's complexion seemed to have improved a little. However, he still looked old. As he watched Qin Yin and the others enter the main hall, he could not help but reveal an expression of relief. He said, "Little Yin, how have you been in the hunting grounds these past few days?" Qin Yin smiled. "I've been very happy." "Ha, as long as you're happy." Qin Yin walked up to Qin Jin and gently massaged his shoulders. She asked with a smile, "Father, how is the investigation on Xiangyu going?" Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and said, on the day of General Su Qin's assassination, Xiangyu wasn't present, so he can't escape responsibility. However, he denies it and refuses to plead guilty. Commander Feng Jixing is currently interrogating him. What if he refuses to plead guilty? Qin Yin asked. Qin Jin gritted his teeth and said calmly, even if Xiangyu didn't personally assassinate General Su Qin in the Dragon Search Forest, it must have been done by someone he entrusted. Moreover, Xiangyu is the descendant of the war god Xiang Wentian and has been arrogant in the imperial capital for a long time. I plan to remove Xiangyu from his position as the commander of the military police and exile him to Tongtian province. What do you think, Xiao Yin? Qin Yin gently waved her hand and said with a smile, Father is wise. I heard that Xiangyu and Jin Yifan are very close in private. Keeping him alive would be a threat to the emperor, so exiling him would be the best choice. However, the commander-in-chief of the military police is very important. Does father have a candidate in mind? Chapter 257. Qin Jin's gaze fell on the two people at the foot of the throne. Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin were indeed the best of the best. Their loyalty and strength were not a problem, and both of them could intimidate the military police battalion, so they were not uncontrollable. As long as Xiangyu left, the military police battalion would be without a leader. After removing a few Kiliarchs and reappointing new Kiliarchs, this army would actually have a change of ownership. As if seeing through Qin Jin's thoughts, Lin Muyu smiled helplessly and cupped her fists. Imperial Father, I really don't have the strength. Chief Deacon Lei Hong has already appointed me as the new deacon of the Holy Cathedral. Coupled with my duties in the Eagle Nest camp, I'm afraid I can't take up an important position in the military police battalion. Imperial Father, please find another capable person. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, all right then, Ayu doesn't need to be the commander, but the position of the commander of the military police battalion is just as Little Yin said, it's very important, and it must be someone I rely on. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Your Majesty, do you trust and rely on Xiaoxi? Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. Xiaoxi is a girl, the military police battalion is full of uncouth men. It's really not suitable. Chu Huayin, I ask you, are you willing to be the commander of the military police battalion? Chu Huayin was startled and hesitated. Why, are you not willing? Qin Jin was a little surprised and said, you should know that although there are only 2,000 people in the military police battalion, they have the greatest authority in the entire army of the empire. If you were to become the commander of the military police battalion, your military rank would be equivalent to that of a general. It would be much more powerful than this little Dragon Guard commander and deputy general. Chu Huayin's expression was solemn. He looked up at the emperor and cupped his fists. Your Majesty, Chu Huayin doesn't want to be the commander of the military police battalion, but I want to be a general who can charge and break through enemy lines for your Majesty. If your Majesty trusts Chu Huayin, please transfer Chu Huayin to be the commander of the Flying Mount Battalion. Chu Huayin is willing to fight for your Majesty without hesitation. Oh. Qin Jin couldn't help but smile, and his face was filled with a gratified expression as he said, fine. Feng Jixing isn't strong enough to command 30,000 Imperial Guards. Those 17,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion are elite soldiers after all. Fine, fine. I'll approve of you. I'll immediately promote Chu Huayin to be the commander of the Flying Mount Battalion. He'll be in charge of the 17,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion. At the same time, he'll be in charge of the Dragon Guards. What do you think? Chu Huayin was overjoyed. He cupped his fists and said, thank you for your grace, your Majesty. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, you must be loyal to Xiao Yin in the future and work hard for the empire. Yes, your Majesty, this general obeys. Qin Yin, who was by Qin Jin's side, pouted and said, but Imperial Father still hasn't chosen the commander of the military police battalion. Sigh, Qin Jin was a little vexed as he said, there are too few people that I can use. Originally, Feng Jixing was resolute and courageous, and he could take on great responsibilities. However, he's the commander of the Imperial Guards, and he's responsible for the safety of the Imperial City. As for Qin Lei, he's too upright and straightforward, and he's easily broken. He's not very suitable to be the commander of the military police battalion. Xiao Yin, do you have any other recommendations? To everyone's surprise, Qin Yin gracefully bowed like a virtuous lady and said with a smile, "Your daughter recommends herself." What? Qin Jin, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and the others were all stunned. How can you do that? You're the heir to the throne, why not? Qin Yin met her father's gaze and said with a smile, "It's precisely because I'm the heir to the throne that I should understand the Empire's army better. The military police battalion administers the army's military laws. What position is closer to the various commander-in-chief of the Empire's army than the commander of the military police battalion? If Xiao Yin wants to truly control the Empire's army, she must take this step. Imperial father, Xiao Yin has grown up. She's no longer that frail Qin Yin." Qin Jin frowned, his expression uncertain. After a while, he raised his head and asked, "You, Chu Huayin, what do you think?" "Chu, what do you think?" Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "Xiao Yin's recommendation is a little shocking, but if you think about it, it makes sense. As long as your majesty assigns a few capable dragon guards to take up important positions in the military police battalion and control the army, Xiao Yin will naturally be able to control the military police battalion first and then the entire Empire's army. As for safety, I can assign 20 Eagle Guards to act as Xiao Yin's personal bodyguards." Qin Jin said, "Xiao Yin is the heir to the Empire's throne and my only hope. Nothing can happen to her safety." At the side, Chu Chu cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, why don't we do this? I will oversee the Zhe Tian Palace and protect your Majesty. Your Majesty can issue an imperial edict to the Divine Sanctum's Grand Deacon Lei Hong and order him to be the deputy commander of the military police battalion and protect Her Highness at all times. As for the Divine Sanctum, since you is here, why don't we let this fellow gain more experience and hold the authority of the Grand Deacon?" Qin Jin smiled. "That's a good idea. You're still young and inexperienced. Imperial Father can't promote you to be the Divine Sanctum's Grand Deacon. Are you willing to hold the authority of the Grand Deacon as a deacon?" Lin Muyu smiled helplessly and cupped her fists. "Then that's the only way, all right, then it's decided." Qin Jin laughed heartily and his gaze fell on Qin Yin. "Xiao Yin, it's not that easy to be the commander of the military police battalion. You have to consult Grand Deacon Lei Hong on everything, understand?" "I understand, Imperial Father. I'll go and make the preparations immediately. Tomorrow morning, I'll send Xiang Yu to set off from Zhe Tian Palace. All of you have to attend." "Yes." After the meeting was over, Lin Muyu brought the imperial edict back to the Divine Sanctum. When she handed it over to Lei Hong, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "To think that I actually became a deputy commander at such an old age." Sigh. "I, Lei Hong, have always been indifferent to fame and fortune and was unwilling to accept any military position. But now, I've become a deputy commander," Lin Muyu chuckled. "Grand Deacon, your mission is only to accompany and protect Her Highness Yin. As for the position of deputy commander, it's just an empty title. You should understand very well." Lei Hong placed the imperial edict aside and looked deeply at Lin Muyu. The imperial edict mentioned that you'll temporarily hold all the authority of the Grand Deacon. In the future, all the matters of the Divine Sanctum will be handed over to you." Lin Muyu replied respectfully, "I'll definitely be careful and won't let you down." "All right, I'll set off in the afternoon." Lei Hong glanced at Guiyang who was not far away and said, "Deacon Guiyang, when I'm not around, you have to listen to Deacon Lin and assist her wholeheartedly. Do you understand?" Guiyang cupped his hands and smiled. This old man understands. In the afternoon, Lei Hong packed his luggage and went to the military police camp. He brought scrolls of scrolls with him. These were his treasures. Lei Hong had been researching all kinds of martial arts his entire life. It seemed that these were his pursuits. Lin Muyu led Qin Yan, Guiyang and the rest to send Lei Hong to the door. Then, they returned to the divine sanctum. Guiyang smiled respectfully. I've already cleaned up the divine sanctum's meeting hall. It'll be your workplace. Take a look first. I'll bring you the files that you need to review today later. Oh, all right. Lin Muyu followed Guiyang to the center of the divine sanctum. The meeting hall had been covered in dust for a long time. At this time, it was clean. A huge desk was placed under the window. On top of the desk, there was a pendulum inlaid with the divine sanctum's emblem. Lin Muyu sat behind the desk. She actually felt a little satisfaction in her heart. She had never used such a huge desk before. The treatment of a Grand Deacon was indeed different, even though she was just a temporary Grand Deacon. 2 divine sanctum guards stood in front of the door. There was also a 40-year-old servant called Jin Sang. However, Lin Muyu usually called him Uncle Jin. Deacon Lin, would you like black tea or green tea in the afternoon? Jin Sang asked respectfully. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at him. She smiled. A cup of green tea. Thank you, Uncle Jin. You're welcome, Deacon. I'll be right there. Not long after Jin Sang left, Guiyang came with a huge stack of files. He placed them all on the desk and smiled. These are all the things that need to be dealt with today. Take a look, you. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me. All right. Thank you, Deacon Guiyang. Lin Muyu opened the first file. It clearly said, recruitment. The trial hall is short of 4 guards. We're specially recruiting 4 guards at the second sky of the mortal realm. The estimated cost is 50 Jin coins per person. That's a total of 200 Jin coins. There was nothing more to say. Lin Muyu wrote her name on the file and added the Grand Deacon's seal. She then looked at the next file. Repairs. 24 damaged weapons in 3 days. The total repair cost is 147 Jin coins. The warehouse has already paid for it. Please approve. Lin Muyu wrote her name and stamped the Grand Deacon's seal. She then looked at some trivial matters, such as how many goats and chickens were consumed during the banquet. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sigh inwardly. It really wasn't easy being the Grand Deacon of the Sacred Hall. Furthermore, it wasn't the end of the month yet. Otherwise, she would still have to pay the instructors and sparring partners. That would probably be even more of a headache. However, she didn't know that there was still more to worry about. Not long after, someone knocked on the door. It was Wei Chao's voice. Commander, are you inside? Come in. Lin Muyu said. Wei Chao carried a pile of scrolls and walked in with a smile on his face. Commander, these are some of the unresolved scrolls for the Eagle Nest camp this month. Most of them are related to equipment repairs, rations, and the like. Please take a look and then sign your approval. Without your signature, the military supplies department will not give us any supplies. F***CK, Lin Muyu groaned inwardly. Her head was already swollen, while Guiyang chuckled at the side without saying anything. When it was almost dusk, they finally finished dealing with all the scrolls on the table. Lin Muyu sighed. He finally had some time to cultivate the 4-dimensional energy at night. However, he was too optimistic. Not long after, Zhang Wei came to the sacred hall with a jar of wine. He said that he was here to reminisce and find some old friends to drink with. There was nothing to do that night. She had a hangover. The next day, before she woke up, Jin Sang's voice came from outside. Deacon Lin, you still have something to do today. You need to go to the Zhe Tian Hall early in the morning to escort Xiang Yu's prisoner carriage out of the city. Oh, Lin Muyu jumped to her feet. Yes, this was an order from Qin Jin himself. She couldn't afford to be negligent. Chapter 258. Early in the morning, the bright sunlight shone upon Zetian Palace Hall. When Lin Muyu arrived on her horse, Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Chu Huaying, Qin Yin, and the others had already arrived. In the distance, a prisoner's carriage was pushed out from Zetian Palace Hall. It was escorted by dozens of imperial guards. Inside the carriage, Xiangyu was dressed in a prisoner's uniform. His hands were locked by heavy metal chains. 2 metal chains had pierced through the major acupoints in his chest, preventing him from circulating his battle qi. This was equivalent to crippling his martial arts. At this moment, the arrogant look on Xiangyu's face had already vanished. However, his gaze towards Lin Muyu and the others was filled with disdain and anger. The once unruly military police camp commander had ended up in such a state. It was truly a pity. Lin Muyu walked forward and said calmly, "Xiangyu, we're here to send you off." Xiangyu sneered. Lin Muyu, he, being in the king's company is like being with a tiger. Ha 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 ha. You fools think that Qin Jin will really trust you forever? Feng Jixing's gaze turned cold. Shut up. You're already a prisoner. How dare you spout nonsense? Ha 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 ha. Xiangyu trembled as he laughed. His face was ashen and filled with despair. Even though he was in the prisoner's carriage, he still turned his head and looked coldly at Lin Muyu. He shouted, "Lin Muyu, do you really think that I was the one who assassinated Su Qin? You've all been deceived, you bunch of fools." Lin Muyu spurred her horse forward and said calmly, "That night at the post house, you know very well whether or not you were the one who assassinated Su Qin, right?" Xiangyu said, "That night was indeed me. However, the assassination of Su Qin in the dragon-seeking forest was definitely not done by me. I, Xiangyu, dare to take responsibility for my actions. There's nothing I don't dare to admit. However, you want to pin the blame on me for something I didn't do? I refuse to accept this. If it wasn't you, who else could it be?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Xiangyu turned his head and scolded angrily, "Lin Muyu, you idiot. You're a stupid pig." Qin Yin raised an eyebrow. "Xiangyu, you're still cursing Big Brother you? Don't tell me you don't want to be exiled to Heavenspan Province? Do you just want a quick death? If that's the case, I don't mind changing my father's mind." Xiangyu's gaze was ice cold. "Qin Yin, there isn't a single good person in your Qin family. You are a bunch of ungrateful people. Your Qin family is a bunch of despicable people. Shut up." Lin Muyu growled. Xiangyu laughed. Perhaps it was due to his excitement, his wrist rubbed against the iron lock, causing blood to flow. He said loudly, "Borrowing Su Qin's hand to kill Hu Tianning, a feudal lord of a town. Then borrowing my name, Xiangyu, to get rid of Duke Yun's only son. Finally, borrowing Su Qin's death to consign me to eternal damnation. What a good way to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Qin Jin, oh Qin Jin. In this world, who is more scheming than you? In order to pave the way for your daughter, what can't you sacrifice? You won't have a good death. You definitely won't have a good death. I, Xiangyu, curse you to die by a sword." Feng Jixing said angrily, "Someone, stuff his mouth with a piece of cotton cloth." Yes. 2 imperial guards stepped forward and stuffed Xiangyu's mouth. Lin Muyu held her sword and slowly escorted him to the right side of the prisoner's carriage. Her expression was gloomy and her heart was in turmoil. She suddenly thought of many things that she shouldn't have thought about. Yes, this world was so sinister. Who wouldn't scheme against others? If these were really Qin Jin's schemes, then Lin Muyu could understand everything. After leaving the city, Chu Huayin personally led 1,000 cavalrymen from the Flying Mount Battalion to escort Xiangyu to Tongtian Province. The journey back and forth would take more than a month. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Qin Yan had already returned after leaving the city. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing escorted Chu Huayin for a longer distance. Feng Jixing led a group of imperial guards to bring up the rear. Lin Muyu urged her horse to catch up with Chu Huayin, who was at the front of the group. She smiled and said, "Brother Chu, I'm sure you won't be back for a long time after going to Tongtian province, right?" Chu Huaimian nodded and said, "You, remember to take care of Yao while you're in the capital. Visit her more often. Otherwise, I won't be at ease leaving her alone in the capital." "Got it. Brother Chu, don't worry. I'll visit her often." "Okay, that's good." Chu Huayin nodded gently. Suddenly, there was a trace of doubt in his eyes. He lowered his voice and said to Lin Muyu, "Maybe I won't go too far. I'll return to Lanyan City in 3 to 5 days." Lin Muyu seemed to understand something, and her heart ached as if it was being pricked by needles. Her Majesty summoned me to Zetian Palace late last night for a lecture. You're extremely smart, so you should be able to guess some things. Originally, Her Majesty intended to let you handle this matter, but she was worried that you would be too benevolent, so she didn't choose you. Instead, she chose me, the new commander of the Flying Mount Battalion. Chu Huayin's eyes flickered a few times, and his gaze became sharp. He said, "But it doesn't matter. I'm the most suitable person to handle this matter. I, Chu Huayin, have pursued power and position all my life. If I can get a reward for doing something against my will, it's worth it." Lin Muyu was silent. She stared at the ground that was constantly retreating. "You." Chu Huayin raised his voice and asked, "Are you listening to me? Do you know what I want to tell you?" "I know." Lin Muyu's voice was surprisingly calm, or perhaps it was a kind of disappointment. She said faintly, "If I'm not wrong, Her Majesty asked Brother Chu Huayin to assassinate Xiangyu midway." A look of surprise flashed across Chu Huayin's face. "Since you've already guessed it, why are you so calm? What does it matter if I'm calm or not?" Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Her Majesty has accepted me as his godson. I originally thought that he trusted me a lot and would tell me everything. But now, it seems that I don't understand him at all." "I really don't understand him at all." Chu Huayin patted her shoulder and said, "He is the emperor who stands above all and the ruler of this mainland. Naturally, he can't be soft-hearted. You will naturally understand this in the future. This is a world filled with killing and strife. It has never been as beautiful as the fairy tales. I've submitted to this world. To me, all the good things are focused on Yao, Xinxiang, and your group of good brothers. Perhaps it's because of your existence that I'm able to continue walking down this path with firm faith." Lin Muyu nodded and a bright smile appeared on her face again. She said, "Yes, I won't be willful this time. Brother Chu Huayin, just do whatever you want. I'll pretend that I don't know anything." "That's right, this is our good you. Alright, we've sent him here. You and Feng Jixing can go back. This matter, let me, Chu Huayin, bear all the responsibility." "Okay." Lin Muyu turned her horse around and came to Feng Jixing's side. She said, "Brother Feng, let's go back to the capital. There's no need to send us too far." Feng Jixing nodded. "Yes, let's go. Shouldn't you invite me to the Tingyu Tower for a drink this afternoon?" "Drink?" Lin Muyu suddenly smiled. "Okay, let's go to the Tingyu Tower." "Good, straightforward." In the afternoon, in the elegant room of the Tingyu Tower, only Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were drinking face to face. There were 6 empty wine pots beside them. Both of them seemed to have something on their minds. They didn't say anything and just kept drinking. Lin Muyu didn't use his strength to dispel the alcohol. He wanted nothing more than to get drunk. When he was about 80 to 90% drunk, he raised his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He said, "Brother Feng, do you know? Ever since I came to Lanyan City, you've been the person I admire the most. In my heart, you're a true hero, the kind of person who's always been upright." Feng Jixing smiled. He put down his cup and picked up his chopsticks. He said, "Why? Am I, Feng Jixing, not an upright person now? If you didn't do what happened in the dragon-seeking forest, then you can still be called a hero. Lin Muyu looked straight at Feng Jixing. Her gaze was like a sharp sword that could penetrate all of Feng Jixing's disguises and lies. Feng Jixing was startled. He raised his hand and said to the attendants outside the door, "All of you leave this floor. No one is allowed to come near. If I don't go out, don't come in." "Yes, Commander." The 4 Imperial guards outside quickly left. Feng Jixing opened his drowsy eyes and looked up at Lin Muyu. He smiled. Are you suspecting Brother Feng?" "Yes, I do suspect you." Lin Muyu picked up his cup and drained it in one gulp. His face was full of pain as he said, "Xiang, you didn't have 2,000 troops to kill Su Qin. Moreover, Xiang, you didn't know Su Qin's location in the dragon-seeking forest. Only you escorted Su Qin into the Cloud Ancient Path. Only you, Brother Feng, could take out over 2,000 troops to assassinate Su Qin." Feng Jixing looked at him absent-mindedly. He suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. You're too smart. So smart that it scares me. If you think that I, Feng Jixing, have done something wrong, you can always pull out your dragon spirit sword and kill me. I know. I, Feng Jixing, am no longer your opponent. It won't be hard for you to kill me. Lin Muyu frowned. "Brother Feng, why do you want to kill Su Qin?" "He's Xiao Yin's uncle. It's because he's Xiao Yin's uncle." Feng Jixing slammed his palm on the table and said, "It's precisely because he's Xiao Yin's uncle and the only heir of the Muyu city that he's so vicious. He even dared to order the massacre of the 5 Valleys city. If you didn't stop him, he would have been trapped in the predicament of His Majesty being a tyrant. Do you think Su Qin should be killed? If Su Qin wasn't killed, Duke Yun would never hand over the 250,000 soldiers of the Muyu city to Xiao Yin. Do you think Su Qin should be killed?" As he said this, Feng Jixing took out an imperial edict from his bosom and said, "This is the secret killing order that His Majesty gave me. However, it doesn't exist anymore." Feng Jixing's douqi rose and instantly crushed the imperial edict into pieces. He stood up and said lightly, "This is what I, Feng Jixing, did alone. It has nothing to do with His Majesty and Her Highness Yin. If you want to kill me, then kill me. This is a game of power. There's no mercy or affection." Lin Muyu looked up at him and said calmly, "Big Brother Feng, do you have mercy in your heart?" "Mercy?" Feng Jixing was startled for a moment, then said with a smile, "My benevolence has never been given to my opponents." Lin Muyu pointed to the dishes on the table and said with a smile, "Sit down and drink. The dishes are getting cold. Don't waste them." "They're all my hard-earned money." Feng Jixing sat down slowly and said, "This meal is on me. I owe you. As your big brother, I shouldn't keep hiding it from you. I've forgotten about these things." Lin Muyu picked up a piece of wild boar meat and put it on Feng Jixing's plate. She said, "You didn't do anything wrong. It's me who can't let go of too many things. However, I'll learn to let go and make choices in the future." Feng Jixing's eyes were full of praise. "Well, maybe you're the only one who can change the future." You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.